Thank you very much. We have other storytellers that are on deck and ready to go. Elaine Marais is going to uh, do a workshop, and then we have a video. Elaine, if you'd like to go ahead and just introduce yourself and begin. I'm sorry, I think I grabbed possibly 2 or 3 minutes of your time. 47, 2 minutes of your time. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Well, thank you, Diane, and thank you for that lovely story. I'm going to do a workshop today on animal characters, and from what I see, there aren't many children in the audience, but I think we are all children at heart. And even so, you may have children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews, and I think you're going to learn something here will make you even more adorable as a parent, a grandparent, or an aunt or uncle. In my work as a storyteller, I primarily use movement and tell a lot of folk tales. I also do personal stories. But in the folk tales, as you can imagine, it calls for knowing how to do a lot of animal characters. So that's what we're going to learn today. And excuse me for having to check my phone once in a while to make sure I stay within the time limit and be respectful to the other tellers here. And the other thing I want to say is some of these things you're going to see up close because they do call for facial expressions. And then I might back away from the camera. I believe you'll be able to hear me, but the key thing is the visual anyway. So if you just follow what I'm doing and just try to tune in as best as you can with the hearing. So the first character we're going to do today is the lizard. It's actually a character I learned from a college roommate. It was the first character I ever learned. So we're going to work on the face first. So the first thing I want everyone to do, and I want full participation. I know Diane, I can see her face. So I'm going to expect you to model, Diane. The lizard, one of the first things we want to do is to pull our neck muscles down and our face is down like this. So we're doing one of these. So let me show you my side here. Okay. Now you got the mouth, okay? Then you're going to focus your eyes about right here. They're going to be wide eyes, but they're going to be looking straight ahead in the center. So about at a point like this. So if you put those two together, it would be. Okay, we're not done yet.
Without laughing.
Laughing. The next thing we will add to that is the movement of the lizard with the head. These are sharp, quick moves. So it's usually a head turn, side to side, quick turn. I call it like a staccato. So let's put your mouth, your eyes together and with the quick movement. Okay? And the next to the last thing will be your tongue. Now the lizard has a quick tongue. So it would be, okay? So putting it all together, the mouth, the eyes, the neck, and the turn of the neck, and the tongue would be like so. And the final addition to this is your hands. And I'm going to first try to show it here. Your hands will be wide, like this, pretend like they're on a table. Your elbows, everything's going to be even with your hands because we're portraying the upper body of the lizard. I'll do this by the camera and then I'll back up a little bit. So putting it all together, And let me back away to show you what that would look like. So that is a lizard. If anyone has any questions, I think Diane can unmute you and ask a question before I move on to our next.
Yeah, there may be a couple of kids behind that one, but he may be portraying it on a monitor so that
Okay,
working with it.
great. Okay, the next one, which is very closely aligned with the lizard, is the turtle. So the turtle is going to, again, have those wide eyes, but it's going to be looking more straight, okay? They also have the turned down mouth. Let's do it like that. And with the turtle, the hands are out like this, okay? And they move the hands like a little wrist flick when you're walking, or you can move them at the same time. Actually, I think that's better, where you move your head forward and pull your body up. Forward, pull your body up. Let me show you from the side. Hands are placed here. Push your head forward, pull your body up. Pull your body up. I can't tell if I'm off camera, but
Come on.
So when we put that all together, looking forward, remember the lips down, looking forward, wide-eyed, and then pulling your body forward. Okay? So I hope you learned those two characters went down well with you, and you have something you can use in a new story. So I'm going to teach you, I see I only have 1 more minute. So I think what I will teach you is the dog, okay? Which is a very easy one. Of course, we're going to be on all fours. I mean, not down on the ground. We're going to pretend like the floor is up here at our waist so that your hands will be down here. I'm going to do a happy dog and a mean dog. A happy dog, let me show this slide because that makes it better. You're going to wiggle your body, the whole body. You know, when a dog's happy to see you, they just go from side to side. So you're going to wiggle your whole body. Stick your tongue out and just look happy. Now let's do a mean dog, and I apologize to anyone who has one of these dogs, but I always think of a mean dog in my mind as being short and stocky. So their arms are going to be out here to make them look fat. And I kind of put the shoulders up to kind of make them look like they have a big body. And they're just going to go forward from side to side. And I make a sound that goes like this. And on that note, I will turn it over back to Diane, who's going to follow with one of my, oh, one more thing. You know, I have a couple more minutes. That's the end of the characters. But I wanted to teach you the interaction for the story. So this has 5 animal characters. So I would like to hear from you, your very best hen. Can I hear your very best hen? I don't see any mouths moving. Oh, thank you. Okay, great. Now can I hear a cat? Thank you, Diane. I think a couple other people are doing it too. Now I'd like to hear.
Alice is doing it.
Sheep. Okay. And how about a cow?
Who can do a cow? Come on.
I don't know what a cow is.
Oh, I hear some children's voices. That's fantastic. I'm
We're lurking here.
sorry. And the next one is a dog, which I kind of gave you a couple clues.
Okay. Dog noises.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, that's one part of the story, 5 animals, and I think you'll know when to pipe in. The other part is what I call the rhythm section. I'm going to do it slowly for you, and then we'll get faster, but I'd like you to do it with me. It goes like this.
Y'all know this?
And he went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road he was on, no fortune was found. Oh, there's the children, yay. Let's do it again. And he went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road he was on, no fortune was found. He went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road he was on, no fortune was found. He went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road he was on, no fortune was found. So both our rhythm section and the animals are in the next story, in which I perform, that Diane is going to stream for you. Thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy it.
Let me tell you a story about a guy named Jack. Left home one day, just like that. Said, off to get my fortune made. So down the road Jack went away. And he went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road he was on, no fortune was found. Then Jack heard a familiar sound, was a country hen. Bok, 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 bok. Not from a town. Where you going, Jack? Can I go too? Oh, sure, said Jack. I'll share my fortune with you. And they went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road they were on, no fortune was found. Then the two heard yet another sound, was a country cat. Meow. Not from a town. Where you going, Jack? Can I go too? Oh, sure, said Jack. I'll share my fortune with you. And they went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road they were on, no fortune was found. Then they all heard yet another sound, was a country dog. Not from a town. Where you going, Jack? Can I go too? Oh, sure, said Jack. I'll share my fortune with you. And they went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road they were on, no fortune was found. Then they all heard yet another sound, was a country sheep.
Meh, meh.
Oh, not from a town. Where you going, Jack? Can I go too? Oh, sure, said Jack. I'll share my fortune with you. And they went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road they were on, no fortune was found. Then they all heard one last sound, was a country cow. Oh, not from a town. Where you going, Jack? Can I go too? Oh, sure, said Jack. I'll share my fortune with you. And they went jiggity jolt, up and down, and the road they were on, no fortune was found. Then these 5 said to Jack, where will we sleep? Said the dog, cow, cat, hen, and sheep. Well, on a hill, Jack saw a house. Shh. There. Be quiet as a mouse. So up Jack went and looked inside. 2 thieves counting money didn't see Jack outside. So down Jack came and said to his friends, I've got an idea, if you'll lend me a hand. So up the hill these 6 went. Jack, the cow, cat, sheep, dog, and hen, and without a sound, they stood so tall on each other's shoulders, and that's not all. Said boo like a monster, and the thieves were scared, up and away from those kitchen chairs. Then the thieves went jiggity jolt, up and down, hoping that they wouldn't be found. They went jiggity jolt, up and down, hoping that they wouldn't be found. So there the money was, in plain sight, and nobody claimed it by daylight but Jack. He took it all. But with his friends he shared all that money earned fair and square. Then they all went jiggity jolt. Up and down with their new friend Jack, their fortune was found. They went jiggity jolt, up and down, each one home. Safe and sound.
All right, wonderful job, wonderful job. Let's see if I can somehow, one more thing. So, we have just a few minutes before the next performer, which is Matilda Machiavelli, and she has a set she's calling Inspiring Curiosity. Oh, there we go. See if I can get rid of this. There we go. Now we're down. Sort of surprised she's not here. We have. Are there any questions? Is there any comments? That was a great job, Elaine. I loved how you were able to portray those lizards. I hadn't ever thought about lizards and turtles. How did you come up with that idea? There you go. Are you unmuted now? Yes.
Yeah, the story dictates it. As I said, a college roommate taught me my very first character, and that was the lizard. And I said, I've got to find a story with a lizard in it. So I did. I have an Indonesian story that I tell, and a couple other stories I think I have lizards. And then the lizard led to the turtle. And hopefully you'll stay around till at 1 o'clock, and at 2:15 I'll be teaching more animal characters followed by stories.
That will be super. We can hardly wait. We can hardly wait. Very, very cool. Well, I guess 12:15, she should be here any minute, but the next performance will be Matilda Machiavelli, and she starts at 12:15, unless we have to accidentally punt with something else. And we will do that. We look forward to your next show. So I'm going to put up an intermission sign, just a quick break, and cheat and grab another cup of coffee. We'll see you all very, very soon. Unless there were other questions. Did anybody else want to contribute? Raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Okay. Okay, we're done. It's only a few minutes.
Question here.
Question. Yes, sir. Go for it.
Okay, no question. Never mind. We've got cold feet.
Cold feet. I do not know how to actually portray cold feet. Let's ask the expert, Elaine, and see if she knows how to portray cold feet. Elaine, can you help us?
It's hard to get your foot up here in this limited space, but of course I would,
Shake, shake, shake.
shake it a little bit. Oh, went the wrong way. Get your feet in reverse when you're done soon. Oh, can't see my foot. But just take your foot, shake it a little bit,
Good advice. Good advice.
Thank you.
Those might be, it looks like Erica Cabrera also has a child listening in. Chris has 2 children listening in, and they are quite the stage performers, even at this young age. How about Erica Cabrera? Do you like creating animals, sir? Can I unmute you?
It's a little bit difficult for me to create animals but I have a few in my hands. I want you to tell you that we are watching you from Uruguay in South America. And we are, I am Matilda's nephew.
Wonderful, wonderful. I don't exactly know where Matilda is, but she should be here any moment. I don't see her stuck in a breakout room or anything like that. So she should be here quite soon. So I bet you do get some practice.
Yes.
With stories, huh?
Yes.
What you do with your hands.
Yeah, go ahead.
3, 4.
No, I just want you to show you some animals I can do with my hands. I mean, with shadows.
5,
I will play with shadows.
6, 7,
something like this.
8, 9.
I don't know if you can see it. This is quite difficult for me. It should be a dog.
Oh, yes, yes.
Or something like a
shadow
ghost,
puppets, yes.
Like that. I just need shadow. I don't have any shadow to show you.
Only the one in front of you, huh? Oh, well. Yay! Let us unmute you. Oh, lively as ever, Matilda. This is wonderful. Where did you go? Unmute.
Yeah, I could log in.
There you go.
Hey.
I want to introduce an absolutely international audience. As a matter of fact, there's someone here that you know from Venezuela. I believe they said they were. And you recently were in Buenos Aires. The advertising on our website says you are actually zooming in from there. But as wonderfulness of all the world would have it, you have arrived back here in New Mexico. And you're still zooming, but you're zooming in from a more local space. You are such a delight to listen to, always, always. You have a wonderful voice and a wonderful lilt to the construction of your stories. I want everybody to meet Matilda Machiavelli, and her set is entitled Inspiring Curiosity.
Thank you so much for such a nice introduction, Diane. And I apologize because technology, today it was, well, anyways, I'm here.
Not to worry.
And as Diane said, I was in Buenos Aires, Argentina, but finally I could safely fly back home in New Mexico. So you should all know that we have audience from all Buenos Aires and from Uruguay. And the beautiful red-haired Herman is watching us. So everybody, family and friends joined the festival, so I'm very happy and grateful. So because I was back in Buenos Aires some months ago, when you go back home, normally you get connected with the things that you have, and I have a passion for books. So, browsing through all the books I have there, I just happened to find this story that dates back to some time ago in a very little town, one of these beautiful picturesque towns that have wonderful trees, and of course there's a river running through the town, and people live very happily. Now, in this little town that I have just described, there used to live a family of ogres. Now, this family of ogres had a very tiny, beautiful wooden house right next to the river, surrounded by these beautiful, amazing trees. Now, there was one thing. Ramon, one of the kids, and the family, they were just not happy. And you know why they were not happy? Because nobody liked them in town. They were afraid of them. Well, just because they were ogres. right? And ogres are really, people are afraid of them. But they were not the kind of ogres you should be afraid of, right? Yeah, it's true. Like every ogre, they were big and strong, and they would be wearing those super long overcoats and huge shoes. And they always carried a bag at their backs. So one day, the kids decided they wanted to go to school. So they prepared their bags with, you know, notebooks and pencils, all colorful pencils, and a sandwich for the lunch break. And off they went, all the kids, to the school. And when they arrived to school and the teacher saw them, plainly she said, "Ogres don't go to school." And she slammed the door on their noses. Oh, yeah, were these kids sad? They were very sad. And they went back home. And what's more, the following day, all the family needed food, so they decided to go to the market. Off they went to the market to buy vegetables, fish, you know, everything we need to eat. Once they were in the market, all the vendors there said, "Ogres don't go to the market, they don't do shopping, off you go," and they sent them out of the entrance of the market. And again, the family was very sad. You know, what were they going to do? So that's how this family of ogres learned how to live and how to get themselves everything they needed on their own. So the kids were sitting at home, and the family, well, the family, if they were hungry, they would go to the river and fish. And they started growing their own vegetables, their own fruit. The land there was really fertile. And so they provided for themselves. They had chicken, and the chicken gave them eggs, and they have a cow, and the cow provided them with milk. And so, again, they had everything they needed, but they were not happy because people didn't accept them, didn't embrace them. So one Sunday, they heard the announcement. You know, in these little towns, normally there's a loudspeaker announcing everything on the square, on the main square of the town. And the announcement said something like, "We're running a competition for the most wonderful story in the world. Send us your story, and the jury will be formed by all the neighbors in the town." Ramon said, "This is it." So Ramon sat down, and night after night after night, he was writing and working on the story and working on the story. He even drew some pictures for the kids to understand better. When he had everything ready, he put it in an envelope, poof, and sent it via mail. Now, he didn't sign, so they didn't know that it was him. This Sunday arrived, and once it was the mayor that would read the stories. So the mayor was on the stage, all the people in the town were listening to the stories, and every time a story finished, they would applaud and applaud. And the time came when the story Ramon had written was read. When the story was finished, "Bravo, bravo, viva, viva, that's the most wonderful story in the world." Now, they didn't know the author of the story, the writer. So the mayor said on the microphone, he said, "We would like the writer of this story to come up on stage." And that's how Ramon, who was kind of hiding with the family behind the trees in the square, walked to the stage. And when the mayor saw him, he said, "Ogres don't write stories." This time Ramon answered back and said, "You know nothing about ogres." And to prove his point, he started telling another story a story of a dinosaur who was, of a dragon that was afraid of the fire. And after a story and another story and another story. And people started liking Ramon. And from then on, every single night, Ramon would be telling stories in the square. And as time passed by, they appointed him to librarian of the library of the town. And Ramon had a message to all of us, which says that if you ever encounter a princess, a mice, a dragon, be nice to them, because even ogres can write wonderful stories. So this leads me to tell you that one of the stories that Ramon told was that it was a legend that he took in this occasion. He took this from the Guaraníes. The Guaraníes are tribes that used to live both in Uruguay, where I was born, and in Argentina. And in those days, there were two tribes, and these two tribes lived on each side of the river. But they were friendly with each other. They shared the land to hunt and fish, and everything went fine. And the chief, the caciques of each of the tribes would meet every now and then and agree on different things. People would exchange their artisanship, everything. But one day, one of the chief of the tribes, Manio, talked to one of the other chief, and he said, you know, I think that we should seal this bond that we have, this good relationship that we have, by marriage. I mean, you give me your daughter for marriage, and that would be the perfect bond for us. Now the chief answered, you know, I'm awfully sorry, but I cannot do that. I mean, I cannot give you my daughter in marriage, because ever since she was a child, she has been in love of the God Son, and she offered her life to him. She decided to devote all her life to the God Son. So that's not going to be possible. Mandio the cacique got so furious that his eyes were shining with rage, and so he dashed out of the tent, leaving this cacique so sad, reflecting, because he knew that from that moment on, the tribe, his tribe, was in danger, because Mandio would never ever forgive what had just happened. Well, time passed and everything was peaceful and nothing happened. But one day, when the daughter left in her canoe, she was rowing in her canoe because she wanted to enjoy the sunset right there from the river. And suddenly, when she turned, she could see fire coming from all the huts of the tribe. So then she decided to row as fast as she could to the shore. And when she got to the shore and was ready to step out of the boat, she felt arms wrapping her around and not allowing her to move. And she was panicking. And at that moment, she heard Mandio's words saying, you better pray to your God to relieve you from me and from my revenge, because neither your tribe nor your God will be able to save you. God, she was paralyzed. This little princess was paralyzed. She didn't know what to do. And no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't free from the arms of Mandio. And while she was doing her best to free herself, she was praying to her God, please God of the Guaraníes, please, Son God, relieve me from this. Don't let Mandio get his way. And at that moment, the God of the Guaraníes heard her prayer and sent a whirlwind that wrapped her and made her disappear from Mandio's eyes. Was Mandio fearful? He was terrified. And then it was at that place that a beautiful plant started coming up. And at the top of the plant, there was this amazing big flower which had followed the sun followed all the movement of the sun in the same way that this princess would do. And that is said is the way, is how the sunflower was born. And I'm a fan of the sunflowers here in New Mexico. They are beautiful. All right, so we're doing fine. We have 5 minutes, I think. So to wrap it up, I want to share with you, now that we're talking about animals, there's a nice, cute little animal that inhabits these areas where we live. And some people, you know, there are many things said about these animals, but back in the age of Ice, at the time of the Ice Age, all animals were dying because it was very cold and they were freezing. So, you know, porcupines saw what was happening, and they decided that they had to do something or they would perish and disappear from the earth. And so it was that they said, okay, why don't we get together? I think it would be nice to get all of us together and give each other all the warmth we can so that we can preserve ourselves. What happens was that when they did that, it hurt so much because of the quills they had. So they say, this is not good. We cannot do this. So they had to choose either to die and perish or to cope with the quills and save their lives. So they decided, no, this is too strong. We're going to go each our own way. They did that, and yeah, because of the cold, they started freezing, they started dying. So making use of their wisdom, they decided, okay, let's get back and get together again. And that's how they learned how to cope with their quilts, because after all, these little wounds that we all have when we are very close to somebody are not the most important thing. The most important thing is the warmth that we give to each other, right? So, bye, sweetie. Okay. So, Diane, you will tell me, are we doing okay? I think we're on time for questions and answers following the schedule.
Yeah, there we go. That's the most important way. You actually do have, I think, unless my clock has run out of batteries, you had a half hour, so you have about 10, 15 minutes.
Perfect, then.
If you would like.
Great. So I can share a story, one more story that I love, and it also takes place in one of these little, near the town where the ogres live and where the porcupine now inhabit. There was this super enchanted little frog, lively, young, full of energy. And what happened to her? Guess what? She fell in love. But she fell in love with a puma. Yeah, a mountain lion. What? So Grandma Frog said, she saw it coming, right? And she said, you're not thinking, you're not fantasizing about the puma, are you? And, you know, that's not possible. And our little frog, rebellious as she was, just played deaf ears to Grandma Frog and started doing whatever she could to seduce the puma. So everywhere the puma went, you would see a little frog, you know, looking at Puma with her beautiful eyes and trying to seduce him all the time. And finally, of course, Puma set eyes on her. She was so attractive and so full of life, and she would jump from one leaf to the other, you know, looking at Pumas. And so that's how they started going out. So every afternoon, they would go for walks to the river under the shade of the trees. They had these beautiful conversations. And so Ranita would dream about the little kids that they will have together, and they will be like huge pumas, and they will roar like, "Rah!" And their roar will scare everybody, and they will have her beautiful big eyes and big mouth. And Puma, our mountain lion, would listen to her like, I think he would think for himself, right? I think that's not exactly what I dreamed of, my cubs. And this little frog, as nice as she is, she could never nurture them. She could never nurse them, right? But all the same, he liked her so much that he also disregarded those little details. Now, at the same time, while this was going on, the toad, Mr. Toad, who was a very strong toad and was madly in love with Little Frog, was suffering. He was heartbroken. He didn't know how to get the attention of this little frog who was so in love with Puma. So Grandma Frog saw what was going on and made a plan with Mr. Toad. And that's how one day, when Puma and our little frog were coming back from a very nice walk that they had just enjoyed, from behind the bushes, when the Puma was about, he was getting closer and closer to the little frog to give her a sweet, small kiss, Mr. Toad appeared and threw some magic powder to the Puma. And at that moment, the Puma, oh my God, when he sneezed like that, our little frog flew in the air, only to fall in the arms of Mr. Toad. And when that happened, our little frog saw Mr. Toad and she said, "Oh, Mr. Toad, you have such strong arms. Oh, and you were just there to hold me." When Puma saw that, he got furious. He got mad and said, "This is not working." And when he was leaving, stomping on the ground, he almost stepped onto Grandma's and smashed her. So a little frog shouted, "Hey, watch out! That's my grandma! That's Abuela! Hey!" And at that moment, as the Puma was leaving, he realized that he had fallen in love with this little frog, and that was never ever going to be possible. And at the same time, while our little frog was in the arms of Mr. Toad, she also realized that actually Grandma had her point. And that's the story of the frog and the Puma. So let me put on my glasses and offer you, because they reflect the light, so they don't look very nice. I wonder if anybody wants to say something, wants to ask any question.
Anybody have any questions, any comments, or do you want to know what the weather is like in Buenos Aires?
That would be nice to know. Yeah, you just raise your hand, look at where it says reactions. At the bottom of the screen on your right, you will see reactions, and you can, there raise your hand or say something. Good, I see that Herman is raising the hand. Thank you. And if you want to say something in Spanish, I can translate that.
Somehow.
There
you go. Yay.
Oh, I love you too, baby. Te amo means I love you. Yeah, me too. Thank you. Now mute yourself again. Right. Alicia, you want to say something? You're unmuted. Estás mudo, Ali. Estás sin mudo. Puedes hablar. Okay.
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Some reason. So, when did you first pick up your talent for storytelling? How did you know that was something that you wanted to do?
Well, there was something missing in what I was doing. At that moment, I was teaching. And in a way, we're all telling stories all the time, right? In our classes, I was working with tales mainly for business. And that summer, I decided I wanted to do something different. So I started a workshop in Buenos Aires. I met beautiful people. We had a group together that we told stories for many years together. We planned performances, and it was great fun. So we had solo performances or group performances, mostly group performances. And when I visited New Mexico for the first time, I contacted my dear friend Sarah. Then I met Regina and Elaine and everything. You know, I came back for the Seamus Storytelling Festival. It was amazing. It was great fun too. So it's just one-way road, you know, once you're into stories. Yeah.
There is a lot going on locally, but you have such a good perspective of things happening all over the world, practically.
Yep.
Practically speaking.
That's
So,
true.
when you're talking about it in that way, what do you think? When should children begin to tell stories?
I think that they can start telling stories when they start talking, you know. Well, because they start sharing with mommy, and mommy shares stories with them. And what happens is that children like to hear the story over and over again. And I remember reading stories to my daughter, my youngest daughter, and she would be asking for the same book all the time. And I'm like, sometimes I was like falling asleep, so I would skip 1 or 2 pages, you know, thinking that she would not realize. But she knew the story by heart. She said, Mommy, you missed 2 pages. So I had to go back and tell her the story the way it was. I think it's much richer when you can tell it, even if you don't tell it exactly as it was written. Because mostly stories are written to be read, but when we tell the stories, when we share the stories, there's so much more that we put into it. And you can reach the unconscious mind so much faster. So if you want to give a message to the kids, if you want something to happen, and you want to persuade even a friend of something that would be nice for them, just tell a story. And every story makes an impact, and it's so personal because the story would touch that area that you need or you are in need to look for more. So that's how I think stories work. That's why they're magic.
Yes, well said, that final sentence. They are magic, and storytellers are like just guides. Even if you tell the same story more than one time, the listener is going to hear and relate to it based on where they are in their life at that time. So they are the ones that sort of materialize that magic.
Absolutely. It's the same for the storyteller. I mean, the same story told in different moments and different stages and different audiences also is different for the storyteller. The experience is always a new experience. It's always energizing, and it's always because of the rapport you establish with the audience. And this is also thanks to technology, we can do this and look at each other's eyes and not having this mask that we're obliged to wear nowadays. So this let us establish rapport even through the computer, right? And somebody told me something, when you know, we needed to adapt ourselves to this mask, the same way the porcupines needed to adapt and learn to live with the quills, right? And now we have to live with the mask. And what happens is that when you have the mask covering like this, luckily your eyes make contact much more often than we used to. So looking at the bright side of the mask, it's allowing us to look at each other's eyes, which is communication, pure communication, but from the soul, isn't it?
Yeah, we have to practice smiling with our eyes so that
Exactly.
you can really see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun, fun. Does anybody else have any questions or any comments or well wishes or anything?
You want to say something? Feel free.
You are in the world.
Yeah, yeah, yes, I see there's my sister, my niece, two of my nieces watching. There's a friend from Miami. She's Argentinian, but she lives in Miami. But they're very shy, so they have their cameras off. And, but it's nice to have them, you know. Yeah.
It's good to have some support. It's
Yes.
at least your family is with you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we have learned to communicate that way long ago when I moved here, so it's always nice.
Yeah, super.
Telling stories if one is shy.
I'm sorry, say that again.
How does one get started telling stories if one is shy?
When you're shy, well, you know, when we do things with passion, we're all shy in a way, but the moment you are out there, you know, on the stage and you see the people and you connect with your story, you forget about everything. It's just magic. How can I tell you that? I think that you can get ready for it, but it has to do with the determination of, yeah, I want to share stories. And you can start by telling the story to yourself, recording it, seeing yourself, which is something we don't like very much, to see ourselves doing it, so we will go crazy, right? This is something we need to learn now, to see ourselves on the screen. But I think that when you enjoy what you're doing and you're passionate, the shyness just vanishes. It just does. Yeah, you can join us you can join us. I don't know if we're going to plan to have story crafting online, but before the pandemic, we used to meet once a month to do story crafting, and that's a beginning, you know. That's a beginning. You start sharing stories with your peers, and then, but you know, there was this man who, because he got ill and he was alone, his wife died, and he had to move with his son. And he was living with the son. And the son saw that every morning the father would leave. He didn't know where he was going. So the father would sit under a tree on the square of the town and start telling stories. And people, you know, we live on a hurry pace. We are on this hectic pace that we come from one place and you go from one place to another until we had this pandemic. But that was before the pandemic. So he was telling stories and practically nobody would stop and listen to him. So one day the son followed him and realized what was going on. And so he asked his dad, "Hey, Daddy, what are you doing? Why are you coming here, sitting down in the shade of the tree, telling stories? Nobody stops, nobody listens to you." And he said, "You know, at the beginning, I started telling stories because I wanted to change the world. Now I tell stories because I want to preserve myself with them, right? So I tell them for me, right?"
You got a hand raised. Yes. Very good. Very good. Well, we enjoyed everything you told us today.
Thank you so much for being there. Thank you.
Have the most beautiful voice floating up and down all melodically, Very wonderful. We have a bunch of wonderful things still to listen to this afternoon if you want to hang on, or if you want to go over and check any of the other 63 other events. A couple have probably finished by now, but this has been a fantastic thing for us to put together the whole Albuquerque Folk Fest, the stay-at-home, first ever free Albuquerque Folk Fest. If I gave you a list of all the things we've had to learn, it would only exceed by this much the things we still have to learn. But it has been fantastic, a wonderful journey, and we
Yeah, I
have
want to
enjoyed
say
it.
something. I want to let people know what you're saying now is true. It is amazing how you manage, you all the team preparing the Albuquerque Folk Festival, you, Diane, inviting all of us every year. But what they have done this year to recreate all these tents, all this wonderful web page, and for all of us to be able to enjoy. So kids and adults as well, stay connected because there's a lot more coming. There's great fun. You will learn how to recreate different animals through Elaine Marais. You will learn a lot and fun stories from George. So please stay with us. Come and go if you want. And please do visit the music because the music in this festival is always amazing, just awesome. So thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. Okay. If it's about 10 minutes to Elaine's next workshop, I'm just kind of rounding it to 10 minutes, to Elaine's next workshop. I don't know which animals she's going to teach us how to do, but that was extremely exciting. Oh, Elaine, I'm talking about you. I said, I didn't know exactly which animals were going to come next, but you are the next performer. We'll give just a few minutes here while people kind of dash in and out from other events. It was super exciting. The lizard and the turtle and the dogs. That was crazy. And you've got actually 2 more workshops. One coming up and another one. So I don't know how anybody could turn away. We will have some stories from Regina Ress, who unfortunately can't be here today. She has another obligation, found out she had another obligation. So we have a couple of her videos where she is in Ecuador, in Central Park, telling stories. She's got some really cute videos that will be worth your time for sure. And as Matilda mentioned, we also have George Williams coming up in the final spot of the day, and he has some busted flush stories. They're fantastic, very fun to listen to. So thank you. And I'm going to tune out and put an intermission in here for just a moment, sign for just a moment, and then we'll jump in.
All right. So hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. We're now going to enjoy Elaine Marais, who integrates movement and narration to deliver stories from around the world, as well as personal stories. She has performed and led workshops both nationally and internationally. Her DVD, Embodied and Enchanted, took a Storytelling World Resource Award. She is just magic with the body. She's a good friend, a great storyteller. So just over to you, Elaine.
Thank you, Matilda. Nice to see you again. So I don't know how many of you were here last time. I see a couple of new names. But doing characters is a big part of my work, especially when I tell folk tales. So often in my training, I was told you get down to the essence of the character. Like if you could just do one thing about a character, what would you do? So for this next one, I thought we would focus on birds first. We're only going to do about 5 minutes of this, and then I'm going to do an introduction, the interactive part of our next story, in which you will see some actual animals in action. So for birds, there are a lot of different kinds of birds. So what I want to show you today, first of all, are what I call a funny bird, which is probably one of the easiest things to do. So if everyone will, and I expect my storytellers to be participating as well as the kids, if everyone will cross their hands like this. Now you're going to have your hands be as loose as possible. Okay, so we're not looking for, we want a flapping, okay? A flapping. Now, I want you to we always want to see your face when you're a storyteller. This is a wild and crazy bird, and you can move your arms around your face anywhere you want, but we don't want it in front of your face because we always want to see your wonderful face when you tell a story, right? Okay, so that's your funny bird, okay? A little crazy bird, if you will. Now I'd like to talk about the more elegant bird. Okay, so again, we're going to cross our hands. This time we're going to keep in the funny bird, we were more like this. In the elegant bird, we're going to keep our fingers together. Very good. Okay, again, you cross at the wrist. I'm going to do this in slow motion so that you can see. Hard to do on Zoom because you have to think in reverse. So we're going to start flat or arched, more like an arch in your hands. Good, good, Matilda. Can't see the rest of you, but good job. And we're going to, let me get that bird straight. Try to keep it as arched as you can, as arched. I'm going to cover my face, which I don't advise, just so you can see. Arched, 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 arched. And then when you get down to about there, that's when you're going to start curving your fingers. And then you're going to start to arch that hand again as you come up. The fingers will be the last thing to unfold. Okay? So let's try that again. Good. Let's try it. I don't know why my bird's crooked. Let's try it again. And this time a little faster. Okay, now, as I said, we always want to see your face. So you're going to move that bird around. I sometimes like to start low, like it's flying up in the air. The slower you go with this bird, the prettier it is, in my opinion. But you can go fast if you need to. Okay? Okay, good job, everybody. I don't see the kids participating. Let's see the kids do that too, okay? All right, so in doing these characters, with some of the animals, we can do a micro and a macro version. I like to think of that as like a camera. If you put your camera on zoom and you look at a bug, you're looking at it up close. That's the macro version. And so what you just saw was not the macro version, it was the micro. It's like what you see when you see from far away. The long shot is what they would say when you're filming. Okay, so what we just did was the long shot. Now we're going to take a look at the macro bird, and we're going to do a pretty bird, okay? So I'm going to back up here. As I said, if you just join me, if you can't hear me, you can still always follow me because this is a visual treatment. So if you just mimic what I'm doing, you'll do fine. Now, I'm going to try to show you my feet here, if I can. Let's see if that works. Maybe not. But, okay. You go I just want you to remember, you're going to be going from side to side and bending down. From side to side. And I know some of you are sitting, but I just want you to remember this when you're doing the pretty bird. Let me bring my camera up again. Okay. All right. So remember I said you're going to be going side to side. Now here is the upper portion with my body. My body's just going side to side, following my feet. Okay? Now, I'm going to bring my hands up here. I like to see people doing this. When you go down, your legs go down. And keep those hands together. You're still doing the same thing with your hands that you were doing in the macro version. See how my shoulders come up when I come up, and then they go down. And I'm still going from side to side. Yeah. Now, it's important when you're a bird that you're looking down, okay? So, because you're always looking for something to eat, right? So then you see something you want to eat, maybe a little mouse. Now we're going to bring our hands together. These are like claws, so they're like this. You bring them down together, and you snatch up what you want to eat, and then you do it and go back into your flight. Now, when you do animal characters, you can't show every detail. The important thing is, will the audience buy it? Will they believe it? And so that's why you always focus on the essence of the bird, the most important thing about the bird. Okay, now let me just check my time. I always have to check my time because there are other tellers. Okay, I think we're going to have to move on. Maybe I'll save the owl for the next time, which is at 2:15. But we have another video coming up. But before we do the video, I want to teach you, so that you can enjoy the video more, a couple parts of this video so that you can participate along with it. One is a song. We're only going to do la la la. You can mute yourself or unmute yourself as you wish. If you want to be heard, you would have to unmute yourself. And it goes like this. La 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 la. La 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 la. Let's try that together. La 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 la. So that's the song. Every time you hear it, you can sing with the story you're going to hear that's going to be streamed. Now, the other aspect of the story that you can do interactively with it is a little chant. And first of all, this is a story called the Egyptian Cinderella. I'm sure you know the story of Cinderella, but did you know there were over 500 stories about Cinderella? But this is just one more from Egypt. Now, in this story, Cinderella often has to wash the clothes. So she goes like this. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, and grind the grain. Okay, let's do that again. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. Let's do it again, but faster. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. Okay, because it is going to get fast for a while. So I think you'll know when to do it, and also with the song. Now there's one other part of it, and that is, hold on a second. Oh, the dance. Okay. You remember the song, la 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 la. Okay, so let me see if I can position this camera just a little better. Maybe here. Okay. Actually, I'm going to do, usually I put my hands up here, but I'm going to do them lower just so you can see what I do and see more of my body. Very good. Okay? So the dance goes la, 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 la. So the hands turn in. Okay? La, 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 la. Now we're going to shrug our shoulders. La, 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 la. Let's do that again. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, la, la. So let's, can you do that? One hand is palm up. Both hands are palm up. The one's behind you, one in front of you. La, 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 la. Now here I kick. You can't see my foot. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. So let's do that all together. Ready? La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. Now let me just check on the time one more time, because I think it's time to roll the tape, but I just want to make sure. Actually, we better get going on that tape. So take it away, Diane. The Egyptian Cinderella.
Her name was Rhodopus, and she was born in Greece. But when she was a small child, she was taken away by pirates. Come along there, Missy. There we go, girl. That's a nice girl. Now, Rhodopus was raised by those pirates, and then one day when she was older, they set sail across the sea for what seemed like days and weeks and months until they landed on the hot and sandy shores of Egypt. And there Rhodopus was taken as a slave. Now Rhodopus did the same work as the servant girls with whom she lived. She washed the clothes, she gathered the reeds, and she ground the grain. But the servant girls were not kind to Rhodopus, only because Rhodopus did not look like them. You see, Rhodopus had blonde, wavy hair and green eyes and rosy red cheeks. In fact, the name Rhodopus means rosy-cheeked in Greek. Now, the servant girls were also very beautiful. They had black, straight hair and exotic brown eyes and beautiful brown skin. Fortunately, Rhodopus's master was kind, but he was very old, and he spent most of his days underneath the fig tree, watching the fruit ripening and falling asleep. And he never heard the unkind things that were said to Rhodopus. Rhodopus, the geese are in the garden again. Rhodopus, in my gown. Rhodopus, bake some bread. I am hungry. And Rhodopus did as she was told because she was a slave, not a servant. And so her only friends were the animals. Birds ate from her hand, and the hippo would raise his head as she sang. La 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 la. And Rhodopus loved to dance. So every evening when her chores were done, she would dance for her animal audience. La 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 la. Well, one day her master awoke from a long afternoon nap and he saw the beauty and the grace with which Rhodopus danced, and he decided that Rhodopus should have a new pair of shoes to wear. He went down to the local shoemaker, and he had made for Rhodopus a pair of shoes made of ruby red gold and leather. So when Rhodopus danced now, her feet sparkled just like fireflies. La 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 la. Well, this made the servant girls very angry. You see, they only had shoes made of clumsy papyrus, paper, and so they gave Rhodopus all the more work to do. Rhodopus, you must wash the clothes. Rhodopus, you must gather the reeds. Rhodopus, you must grind the grain. I am hungry. And of course, Rhodopus did as she was told. Well, one day, one of the servant girls had a special announcement. Tomorrow, we will go to Memphis, for the Pharaoh is holding court. I hear there will be lots of dancing and lots of food to eat. So, Rhodopus, you must stay here and wash the clothes and gather the reeds and grind the grain. So the next day, Rhodopus followed the girls down to the banks of the river Nile, and she watched them row away, and they never looked at Rhodopus on the shore. Well, let me see. I must wash the clothes, gather the reeds, and grind the grain. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. Wash the clothes, gather the reeds, grind the grain. For shame, Mr. Hippo. Look what you've done. Now my shoes are all muddy. So Rhodopus took her shoes and she washed them in the river Nile until they shone again and placed them on the river bank behind her. Well, just then, in the sky, a great bird appeared, a falcon, a symbol of the Egyptian god Horus, with wings so wide, he blocked out the sun. Hello, proud Horus, and welcome. Then Rhodopus felt a rush on her neck, and when she looked up, the falcon was flying away, and in his claws was one of her shoes. Wait, come back. But he was no more than a tiny speck in the great Egyptian sky, and he followed the river Nile down, down until he was circling Memphis. And then he swooped down and dropped the shoe in the Pharaoh's hand. Horus brings me a gift. Horus knows more about me than I do of myself. What could this gift mean? Ah, she who will fit the shoe will be my queen. Well, all the girls that were in the court that day came forward to try on the shoe, but none could fit such a tiny slipper. So Pharaoh Amasis got in his chariot and rode off to continue his search. Well, you remember the servant girls were on their way to his court, but when they arrived there, they found nothing but an empty throne. And Pharaoh Amasis was tracking the desert sands, and he was climbing the cliffs where the falcon nested, but nowhere could he find a girl to fit this shoe. And so he called for his royal boat to be prepared. And when he was seated in it, the royal trumpet blared. Heave, ho, for shoe we go. Heave, ho, wife for Pharaoh. Heave, ho, heave, ho. The sound was so loud that Rhodopus ran and hid in the bushes. But the servant girls came out. Oh, they knew who the shoe belonged to, but nonetheless, they were going to try it on anyway. And they curled their toes. They stomped their feet until tears came down their cheeks. Then Pharaoh Amasis saw a blonde-headed girl in the bushes. Come, you must try too. And Rhodopus came out, and the shoe fit perfectly. And she took the other shoe from her robe. Behold, today Egypt has a queen. But Rhodopus isn't even Egyptian. She's a slave, and we need her to cook. Silence! The Pharaoh has spoken. Is not Rhodopus as Egyptian, as we all are? Is not her face as feathery as papyrus? And look, her eyes, they are as green as the Nile. And so Rhodopus ruled beside Pharaoh Amasis for the rest of their days, with fairness and kindness to all. And every chance she had, she still danced, danced. La 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 la.
Wonderful. Congratulations. That was a super bird that you showed us how to do. How appropriate. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, Cherie, do you have a question? I could see you enacting the scene beside the Nile. Can I unmute you?
You are unmuted. Okay. Now, I didn't have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and it's great to hear you.
It was lovely. It was just so beautiful. And I am so impressed by all the work that has gone into making this available to us. All of it.
Hard, but we've all enjoyed it, clearly.
Yes.
Okay, so no questions. I have to think of a super hard question this time then. What was school like for learning to do some of this kind of storytelling? Because this is special. This is quite special with all of the whole body efforts. Can you tell us, Elaine?
What was school like?
Yeah, you must have gone, well, you have a long credits list of school experience. Your drama school, is mostly invented by you, maybe?
No, I have to give credit to some directors. I've always been attracted to movement, and my main director is Pata Kirishvili. He's from the country of Georgia. He has a very successful combo in Washington, D.C. And I fell in love with the but other instances
Kind of hard to hear you, if you can speak up.
Did you hear about Pata? Because he was my main influence.
I can hear you now, though.
Pata Kirishvili of Cinetic Theater in Washington, D.C. directs most of my work. Another man who sometimes directs my work when I can't get to D.C. is James Donlan, who is a very well-known mime in the United States. I took a lot of mime workshops at Celebration Barn in Maine with the former Tony Montanaro, who was one of the country's most famous mimes. So that's where most of my influences come from.
Wonderful, wonderful. I would think that that would be inspiring. It inspires me to know that there are all of these resources out there. So it's your dream, but you're coached and following a tradition that you've built into your own particular style. Yes. Okay. Well, we're coming up pretty close to 1:30, and 1:30 is when we'll start Regina's videos, but these will only be videos. She won't be here personally. I have her notes that she wrote out for me. So if there are any other questions or any other comments, go for it. Can't be more blunt. Go for it. Okay. Thank you so much, Elaine. It was beautiful. Jennifer, did you have any? Yeah, just waving.
I just wanted to say thank you. It was lovely. I'm a dungeon master, and so I tell a lot of stories, but it's all voice and not so much physical movement. And I might try to incorporate a little bit more physical movement in to try and. I use a lot of colorful language to try and set a scene for my players, but I think I might try to add a little bit more movement in because it really brought a lot more to the story.
Let me know if you need any help with that.
So, thank you again, Elaine. We're going to get to see you one more time. We have one more workshop, and I have had the pleasure of previewing each of the videos that you brought, and I think this next one is quite fun. Quite fun. You will be here at 2:15. Yay! And we'll get to learn another creature or two, maybe? Terrific, terrific. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll go to an intermission for a moment. We're going to listen to see a couple of videos that were submitted by Regina Ress. Regina Ress is an actress and author and world traveler and teacher as well. She told me that she had been working in Ecuador, volunteering with kids at an after-school program, and while doing that, she heard that there was an international story festival going on just over in the next town. So she and another person hopped on a bus, zoomed over to the festival to see what was going on. When she introduced herself, they said, "Hey, maybe you would like to tell a story." And impromptu, this is what happened.
¿Dónde estamos? Es samba. Estoy en ese momento con una fundación de arte del mundo en Baños. Soy un voluntario con los chicos, los niños después de escuela. Y vamos aquí, estoy aquí, contigo. Mi idioma no es español. ¿Qué es mi idioma? Mi lengua. Inglés, sí. Inglés. Pero voy a contar un cuento. Primero en español. Y entonces en inglés. Es muy corto. Es un cuento de África. Porque mi ciudad, yo vi en Nueva York. ¿Conoces Nueva York? Es una ciudad grandísima con rascacielos al cielo, sí. Y gente de todas partes del mundo. Tengo un cuento de África. Y espero que ustedes ayuden a contar este cuento con gestos y con palabras, ¿ok? Ese es un experimento. Gestos como este, toros como este con la mano. Por favor, toro, 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 toro. Toro, 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 toro. Ok, después de mí, repiten después de mí. Tengo hambre. Pues come. Soy el más alto. Hablamos de comida. Tengo hambre. Pues come. Soy el más alto. Hablamos de comida. Tengo hambre. Pues come. Soy el más alto. Hablamos de comida. Boing. ¿Conoces la palabra boing? Boing. Boing. Y el dedo gordo dice bla, bla, bla. Bla, bla, bla. Demasiadas palabras. Ya me voy. Hasta la vista. Y por eso el dedo gordo se para solo. ¡Oh, fantástico! Ustedes fantástico. Ok. Gracias. Y para ustedes también. Ok, ahora en mi idioma, inglés, ok, como este, toro, 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 ok, todos, listos, ok, I'm hungry. So eat. I am the tallest. We are talking food. I'm hungry. So eat. I'm the tallest. We are talking food. I'm hungry. So eat. I'm the tallest. We are talking food. Boing. Es una palabra internacional. ¿Sí? Boing. Bla, bla, bla. Otra palabra internacional. Hola, chica. Bla, bla, bla. Too many words. I'm out of here. Hasta la vista, baby. And that's why Thumb stands alone. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Regina, por participar con ese espíritu que tenemos los actores.
Well, we have quite a grand audience here. Grand people, indeed. Grand people. Hey, hi, Anna Catherine. So good of you to stop by. Thank you. If I unmute you, there we go. There we go. How are you doing? Maybe I can get you unmuted. I'm not sure why. That seems to be difficult. Oh, I got it. Okay. So, did you just join us? Have you been over to see some of the music as well, to hear and listen?
Yeah, I jumped in to hear Regina tell a story.
Oh, yeah, that was her story. She had been working at a school in Ecuador, and she heard there was an international
So she's already,
festival in a town nearby. So
she already finished?
just finished that one. She lucked out a person in the audience was going to tell and wanted her to film him. So he went ahead and filmed her, and that's how we were able to acquire that particular video. But I do have another. Regina can't be with us today because she has another commitment, actually for Storytellers of New Mexico. But she did give us a couple of great videos to play. So let me duck out over here. It always takes me a moment to
Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
pull up. It's so good to see you. I haven't seen you in quite a while. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to pull up a really fun video, Conchil and Buaya. Buaya is a crocodile. We've got to get Elaine to show us how to do a crocodile. This would be fun. So hang on.
I'm going to start with a folktale. Some of you have heard this. You've heard this. From Indonesia. Buaya the crocodile was walking along the banks of the Buchan River. Now this is the rainforest, you know, and it's very, very muddy in the rainforest. So when you put your foot down, it kind of goes. You know that sound? Did you ever walk in the mud and it goes? You want to try to make that sound? Come on, everybody, let's hear that. So that crocodile was walking along in that muddy, muddy, muddy riverbank when all of a sudden, boom, a great big tree fell right across his tail and pinned him in the mud, and he couldn't move. So he started bellowing. I don't know what a does anybody here know what a crocodile sounds like? And well, you want to try? This is the time to get out some pent-up crocodile feelings. Let's see. Could we all try to bellow like a crocodile? Let's go. You sound like a bunch of wolves. Come on, you've been listening to Paul Winter too much. I want some crocodiles. That crocodile bellowed, and he bellowed so loudly that Carbo, the great big water buffalo, came down to the riverbank. Carbo, he looked and he said, "What's the matter?" And that big old crocodile said, "Oh, please, please, would you help me? This big log is across my tail and it's hurting me, please." "Well, I don't know," said Carbo. I don't know what to do." "Oh, please, it's just killing my back. Please get it off me." So Carbo is a big buffalo with big long horns. He put his horns underneath that log and he started to push. And he pushed. And he needed some help. Would you all help me push? Come on, let's go. Come on, it's going to take 3 pushes. You know that. Come on. And number 3. And he got that log off that crocodile's tail. And then that old crocodile, he said, "Oh, please, please, my back is killing me. Push me into the water, please." And so Carbo, he put his big horns down under the crocodile, and he pushed that crocodile, and he pushed that crocodile down into the river. "Please, a little deeper," said the crocodile. Would you do this for a crocodile? Is there anybody here who would help a crocodile? Do you all know about crocodiles? Do you know that crocodiles don't have tongues? And because they don't have tongues, they can't taste anything. And therefore, everything tastes alike, including people. That's why they're really dangerous, crocodiles. So don't help crocodiles. But this Carbo, he wasn't real smart, was he? So he kept pushing that crocodile. "Oh, please, a little deeper. Please, a little deeper." And he pushed him out into the middle of the river. And there they were in the middle of the river. And just then, when they were in the middle of the river, boom, that crocodile grabbed Carbo's leg and started to pull him under the water. "What are you doing?" said Carbo. And the crocodile said, "Well, I was about to have lunch and I'm hungry, and you look like a pretty good meal. Well, that isn't fair. I just saved your life. Wow, I'm a crocodile. I don't care. Fair. I'm hungry. Oh, that isn't fair. And then old Carbo, he started to bellow, and he started to make a big water buffalo noise. Now, there's more of you here now, so let's hear some Carbo bellowing, okay? Are you ready? Oh, we got to save our lives. Come on. Oh, oh, come on. Oh, we want to bring everybody from the other side of the park over, right? Well, who came down to the riverbank but Kancil, the mouse deer? Now, in Indonesia, in that part of the world, there's a little tiny deer, about the size of a little goat. His name is Kancil. He's very smart. He said, what's going on out there? Well, I just saved his life, and now he wants to eat me. Well, of course I want to eat him. I'm hungry, and I'm a crocodile. Well, I just saved his life. Wait, said Kancil. I don't understand. I think this needs some kind of a legal decision. A judgment. Well, who's going to be the judge? I'll be the judge, said Kancil. But you know what? I can't understand anything you people are saying to me. You're out there in the middle of the water. Come back out here. Talk to me. Get close to me. So they came out of the water. The crocodile came out of the water, and the carbo came out of the water. And Kancil said, I have to see it exactly as it happened. He said, Buwaya, I want you there by the tree. And Carbo, where were you when you first saw him? So they got, and they started to reenact the thing. And Kancil said, I don't understand. You're telling me the tree was on the crocodile? Put it on the crocodile so I can see. I have to see it on the crocodile. And so Carbo, he took his big horns and he pushed again. And he pushed again. And he pushed again. Right, and they got that tree back on the crocodile. And then Kancil looked at them and he said, is this the way it was? And he said, yeah, this is the way it was. He said, well, I'm ready to make my judgment. He said, you, Buwaya, you are a treacherous crocodile. To want to eat somebody who saved your life, that's terrible. And Carbo, you're a very foolish water buffalo, forever helping a crocodile. But if you want to help him again, push the log back off. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that, he said. I'm not going to do that. And that water buffalo, he ran away. And then Kancil looked at the crocodile and said, you are just terrible. And the crocodile looked at Kancil and he said, I declare war! I declare war on all the mouse deer! And Kancil said, you, my friend, are not in any position to declare war on anybody. And he left him stuck in the mud.
While Diane amused herself, I want to say how much I enjoy Regina's story. Wasn't it wonderful? Are you there, guys? And Catherine and all the rest of the people. We're enjoying this so much, despite the technological challenges, right? Do we have another story by Regina?
We do have one more story. This one is the Clearwater Festival in, I don't understand where I have gone astray here.
Oh, we have nice people joining us.
Oh, this is great. Yeah.
Kay, Cherry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the names correctly. So we'll be enjoying another of Regina's stories in seconds. So hang in there.
Ratto. What do you think a ratto is? Ratto, huh? A rat, ratto. And he looked at the beetle and he said, look at you, you're so slow, you're such a slow poke, look at me, I'm muito rápido. And he took off and came back. He said, look at me, I can go so fast, muito rápido, and you, lentamente, I'm so much faster than you. And the beetle listened to him and she never said a word about what she could do. So he stood there bragging about how fast he was and making fun of her. Well, up in the tree there was a papagayo. Papagayo is a parrot. And this parrot had beautiful feathers of verde e dourado, green and gold. And Parrot was watching and Parrot said, you know, I think we should, see if we can have a little race between the two of you. It might be interesting. And to make it really interesting, I'm going to offer a prize to whoever can go from here to that tree up there, that palm tree up at the top of the hill. Whoever gets there first
gets a new coat. That'll be the prize, okay? And the rat said, I'm ready, I'm really ready. I'm muito rápido, huh? Beetle said, okay. Says, tudo bom, everything's fine. Okay. So they counted. Now here's how you count 1, 2, 3 in Portuguese. Dois, três. Let's hear it. Dois, três. That's how you say it, and boom, they were off. And that rat, he ran all the way to that tree so fast that when the rat got there, Papagayo, the parrot, was sitting on the branches of the tree, and who was sitting next to the parrot? The beetle, Besouro. And the rat said, just a minute here, wait a minute, you can't run faster than I can. This isn't one of those stories where you have a lot of your cousins, is it? And you're not the real beetle, is it? Because I'm not buying that. He said, you can't run as fast as I can. And the beetle said, nobody said I had to run. And she opened up her little tiny wings, and she said, I flew. And the parrot said, you know, you shouldn't be so quick to judge somebody by what they look like. You never can tell when there are hidden wings. Beetle, you won the race. You get a new coat. What color would you like? And the beetle said, I want a coat just like yours. Verde e dourado. I want a green and gold coat. And ever since then, beetles have had that gorgeous, gorgeous coat. And that's a story from Brazil. Obrigada. Thank you. And thank you.
How was that? Isn't that cool? That was Regina's rendition.
That was fun, and we could learn some words in Portuguese.
Yes, you did. Yeah. So that ends Regina's set, and which is really delightful because actually in about 5 or 7 minutes, just a few minutes away, we will have Elaine back, and she will do her third and final, only final for today, not for forever, but her final thing for today. I don't know, she's not here, so I think that I can tell you that there's a stork in her story.
Really? Whoa.
Like that in the end. So maybe
You
she
remember
will show
last
us
year,
more.
Diane, you remember last year, the story of the storks?
Yes.
And the dresses for the party? That was the last year's festival.
Please tell us.
We were doing the festival in El Bosque School, and I was telling the story of the storks who didn't have anything to wear. So, you remember?
No, I don't think I was there.
Okay.
Because, yes, I see. This was the folk festival at the Bosque School. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, I can give you a briefing, just a briefing because Elaine is coming, but just so you know that sometimes you have nothing to wear, right? And then you need to look for a solution. And they wanted to look great because all the animals in the place were coming with the best costumes and whatnot. So they wanted to look beautiful, and they were told, but just because they wanted to be fooled, right? And because they are very innocent, these storks, you know, they went to a place where they wanted stripe dresses, right? And they needed socks, striped socks to put them on their legs, right? And so they went to the store, and the storeman said, there's nothing like that here. So what are you looking for at this time of the day? And the same happened to them in every store they would go to until there was the owl, I think, who said, I know where you can get you the dresses, but then you will have to wear them, and there's only one condition. You need to remember all the time. You have to keep dancing non-stop. Okay, they say, we can do that. Well, I'm not as good as Elaine doing animals. We have a restriction of time. So off the owl went and came back with these beautiful, beautiful socks, all different stripes and patterns, and they look amazing. So these storks were very happy, and they put on the the socks, and off they went to the party. And when they got to the party, the fish were there just on the shore so they wouldn't perish. Everybody was there. They were having fun. There were the snakes there, and there were all kinds of animals. And then came the storks with these beautiful socks, dancing, dancing, dancing. But of course, the party went on and on and on, like forever. And they were getting tired. But one of them said, remember, we cannot stop dancing. We have to keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. So they kept dancing and dancing, and each time they continued dancing, their legs got so tired. But they were not supposed to stop. And there was one of the snakes this snake was watching them carefully, like, what is it that they're wearing? I see that they're like, those things look familiar to me. Let's watch them closer. But it was getting dark and they couldn't see. So the light, gosh help me, las luciérnagas, the little bugs that light at night, and we see them all over, helped them approach the storks. And the storks kept dancing, but one of the snakes realized, hey, and told the other snakes in the party, what they're wearing is the skin of the snakes that are killed. Come on, we have to take that. They are, how come they're doing that to us? Come on. So they got so mad that they started picking the snakes, started picking the storks, and the storks couldn't run because they were so tired, so tired. So the owl had played a trick on the storks and had took the skin of the snakes that were killed to be eaten, right? So it is from that day on that these pink, beautiful storks stay in the water so that they can alleviate the pain of the picking of the snakes. And that's why they cannot even stand on two of them. They have to be standing in one. Have you seen them? They keep one leg up. Again, it's just a briefing of the story. It was written by a Uruguayan writer who's called Horacio Quiroga, and he's amazing. And the story has a lot of juicy details that, because of restrictions of time, I couldn't tell you. But that's how and why.
But that was great. Good, fast, impromptu. I always wondered why storks didn't wear socks anymore.
Right, yeah. It was a learning thing, right?
Oh, Wendy says, good job, good job. Cool. Okay, I am a little surprised.
Yeah.
But we actually do have a few minutes. Regina's set ended a little bit early because she isn't here. And Elaine won't be here until, well, 2:15 is when she will start, so she'll probably be here a few minutes early again.
I'm sure. I hope she's not having issues, because when Elaine finished, I wanted to make comments on Elaine, and suddenly, out of nowhere, my connection went out. And I had to restart the modem, you know, and it has never happened since I returned. This is 2 weeks, never had an issue today. You know Murphy's Law? Have you heard about that, right?
There's a computer genius down in the lower right-hand box, but he's probably withholding judgment. I clearly have had even tiny, small hiccups today.
Yes, yeah.
Come on, click. I was going to go out in the garage and get a hammer there for a moment, but...
No, please.
But I was reading the mail a little bit. We are receiving a lot of clicks and comments and whatnot through Facebook for all parts of the festival. A few folks have had a little bit of technical difficulties. For heaven's sakes, we've never quite done this whole thing like this. We've never done anything like this before. There were so many things we had to learn, but they've gotten past them all and fixed them. And so
I'm
best
checking with
I
Elaine,
understand from reading the mail is things are going well.
They are.
And what I noticed from looking at Anna Catherine's screen and I bet you it's true of many screens, that because we are visual and can be viewed from afar, as well as we are audio, and you can be always listening for the cues, the things that you're wanting to have happen, people are kind of walking in and out. But that's just like a real festival. That's what.
Isn't it
people do when
great?
they
I mean, people can come and go. It's fantastic. Yeah, there she is. She's
All right. So, here we go. We have one
Hilda.
more. And
Yes.
Hilda. I do not know you, Hilda. Welcome, welcome. Are you local to the Albuquerque metro area or New Mexico, or are you a visitor from afar?
No, I live up in Los Ranchos.
Ah, okay. Not very far.
Yeah, not very far at all.
Yeah. Well, welcome, welcome. So, what brought you to the storytelling stage? Are you a story listener or a storyteller?
No, I just
in
thought it
other
would be interesting to come into and see what you're doing.
I'm so glad you are in for a great treat, because we will have Elaine Marais in just a few minutes, and her physical and narrative style, I think you will enjoy. She's totally captivating.
Mm-hmm.
We, Matilda here just told us a story about storks. In Los Ranchos, you get lots of the Rio Grande birds kind of coming through. How
So
are the
now that
storks
you
this
ask,
season?
now that you ask Hilda about the storytellers, you know, there's a Uruguayan writer, Eduardo Galeano, yeah, who has this book called The Book of Embraces. And he has traveled all over the world. Well, many years he was in exile, unfortunately. But in these many years that he was in exile, he ended up in Spain, some near the coast. And he wrote that this person who tells stories and goes all over the world is full of people. That's what the New Mexican Indians here depict. The storyteller, have you ever seen one? Is full of people. He's pregnant with people, and people come out of his pores, always come out of his pores, so to speak. So that's what Eduardo Galeano wrote about the storyteller.
I think that that's a good image to hold in your mind when George Williams comes, because he will be performing stories that are of his own authorship. His Busted Flush, Oklahoma tales, and all of those characters are endearing. I love them. I can tell that he loves them too, as he gives them more and more adventures for him to tell about. And I usually think of a storyteller doll being a female doll, but when you described it like that, I think those characters are just pouring out of George.
Yes, exactly. That's why I love the figure of the storyteller, isn't it lovely?
Absolutely.
And actually, that's how all started, right? Being told and passed on from generation to generation until they started being written, right?
Yes. It was before there was written language. They were already telling tales, and that's how they would pass on the culture and the protocols and how you understood how to be human within that tribe or that group or that village. Absolutely. I often wonder. I told a story a little bit earlier today about Canada geese, and one of the things that birds, for instance, but Canada geese especially do is teach their babies how to be geese, what they need to do, what they need to know. And that raising, it isn't just that they have to wait until the goose gets big enough to be able to fly. There's just a whole lot more acculturation going on, even in non-human species. Is that a little too philosophical? Probably, but that's what it is. Oh, well. Okay.
Okay, so if you want, I can continue with Galeano. And this is very short. So there was this man who had a vineyard and was on his deathbed. And so there was this, Marcela is a woman, was taking care of him. And so this man on his deathbed just revealed the secret. And he said to her, whispering in her ears, the grape is made of wine, right? So then we have Elaine. So let me finish this. So Marcela then thought, well then, if the grape is made of wine, perhaps we are the words that tell who we are.
So welcome, welcome, Elaine. I'm so glad that you're back here. I think Matilda has an introduction for you.
I'm scheduled for 2:15. Is that not correct?
That's correct. That's correct. So there's plenty of time. We can kind of goof off, or we can, actually, Matilda has been giving us some bonus stories, which are kind of fun, short little ones. And we were trading a few even experiences that we've had. So what's the craziest thing that's happened to you, Elaine?
My life?
Maybe related just to stories. Keep it kind of small size, that question.
Well, I will tell you, this is just the first thing that comes to mind, and it's, I think, a fear that every storyteller has. And I am glad that it happened very early in my career. And that is when I was doing it only happened one time. And that was when I was doing a storytelling performance at a library. It was probably the first year I was a performer. And I was telling a story that I knew very, very well. And all of a sudden I just went blank. So what does one do in one of those situations? I think is to be gracious and admit your foibles and move on. So I was very fortunate to have a wonderful librarian who was very gracious to me. And I just stopped and I said, you know, I think I just have forgotten that story. And I said, I'm going to tell you another one. So I told another one. And then I went back and I just told the first one with, you know, like nothing had happened. And what I learned from that was what is important when you tell a story is to rely on your two things. One is to rely on pictures in your brain as to how the story goes. And also, you know, a talk with yourself which is, I know this story, I know how it goes. Don't worry about saying the exact word you want to say or the exact way in which you have told it before. Just say, you know the story. You know how the story goes. So just keep on sharing from your heart. So that was something I was very glad to learn very early in my career, because fingers crossed it hasn't happened since. So.
Cool. You've done so much traveling and told in other countries, and you've had quite a varied kind of career, different venues that you've told in. So that was interesting to hear. I guess what you thought, what came to mind for you first. How about you, Matilda?
Well, I was lucky enough to travel to Cuba twice. And also because there's a lot of storytellers in Argentina coming from Colombia, Venezuela. And though we speak the same language, the musicality in their Spanish is so different, culturally speaking. So when we were in the festivals in Cuba, there were people from Mexico, Colombia, and again, we were all speaking the same language, but certain words and the music, because I take it as music, right? For me, language is like music. So we all have different tone of voice and different words that we use. And they're very lovely in the way they address people. The Cubans and the Colombians are so warm. And their stories, right, mainly in Colombia and in Cuba as well, they tell a lot of stories that have been transmitted from generation to generation. So that is so rich, culturally speaking, right? And you learn so much from them. So this has been an amazing experience. And then I was first time I came to the United States, I was in a storytelling festival in Texas. And back in Argentina, our stories never ever get longer than, say, 10 minutes. And I was in the storytelling festival, people were telling personal stories. And I look at the watch and it was 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. And I was like, what? So you see, changing countries and changing people is enriching in that sense, that you learn to listen to different stories, different styles, and that's, I think, super enriching. So having this festival, like the one you help organize, Diane, it's wonderful because you get in touch with the essence of New Mexico, really, the music, the stories. So, yeah, I think it's time to introduce something.
Sure. I'm going to add to something that Matilda said, because about telling in different styles. The National Storytelling Network, who usually has their conferences in July or August, decided to have it early, take advantage of people being at home. And they had it through Zoom. And, we were thinking, oh, I don't know if it's going to work. But it was actually very rewarding because they got to invite the world. And to see some of these storytellers in their environment, and there were some beautiful costumes from, I don't know if Matilda saw it, but from Indonesia and Africa. And it just opened up for American storytellers. We always have known about international storytellers, but we never got to see them because it's so far away and they couldn't afford to come to NSN. So it was just such a rewarding experience, especially in my opinion, from that point of view.
Yeah, so that's the bright side, as I say, of this pandemic, that it has sort of shortened more and more the distances, right? Yeah. Yes, we have been able to travel and still are all over the world. Okay, so for those who just joined us, welcome you all. And I want to tell you that now we're going to enjoy Elaine Marais, who integrates movement and narration to deliver stories from around the world, as well as personal stories. She has performed and led workshops both nationally and internationally. And she has a wonderful DVD that is called Embodied and Enchanted, and took a Storytelling World Rescue Award. So if you can get hold of it, you will really enjoy it. So now we're going to learn more and more, as we did in the previous performance, about how to recreate these animals and enjoy Elaine's skills. Over to you.
Thank you, Matilda. Regarding that DVD, Embodied Enchanted, which I did not tell in my previous workshops, you can write to me at elaine@embodiedvoicestoryarts.com. I believe that information might be on the website, and I'll tell you how to order that, and also the stories you have been seeing here that have been streaming are off that DVD. As Matilda said, I integrate movement, and as part of that movement is creating, hopefully, colorful characters. And some of those characters are human, but a lot of them, because I do tell a lot of folk tales, are from the animal kingdom. So we're going to continue on with me showing you how I do some of those animals, and I believe that doing helps you to integrate it into yourself. So I would encourage you to do them with me as opposed to taking notes. So I'm going to go back. I didn't get to have time to do a couple that I had planned to do in the first two sessions. So I like to, a common animal that is used in stories are cats, big cats and little cats. So we're going to do cats first. So let's start with a little cat. And I'm going to back away from my computer so that you can see me. First of all, a cat's paw, whether it's a big cat or a little cat, looks something like this. You curl your knuckles in, keep them tight to your hand. Okay. So when I think of a little cat, as I said in the previous workshop, we want to get down to the essence of the animal. If there's only one thing you can, one or two things or three things you can think of that really define that animal and separate it from the other animals, that's what you want to look at when you're developing these animal characters. So when I think of a cat, a little house cat, I think of elegant and gentle. Everything is physical elegance. They're always beautiful, and everything they do, even it's like, oh, look how pretty I am just sitting here. I'm just a gorgeous animal. So let's remember our paws. And often when I do a cat, he's just usually he or she is usually talking, and cats actually don't do this. They don't do that often. I have seen cats cross their paws like this, but we're trying to portray the elegance of the cat, okay? So I often just do it like this, and cats, lick themselves, and go like that, kind of do it from the side. And they often stop in the middle of an action because they have a thought, and then they forget the thought, right? So, they might, and then you can continue, and then continue. Because cats have very short memories, or that's what we think of them anyway. So, you can also like stretch, like a cat. You just stretch out and then come back. Now, I'm not specifically talking about animal sounds, but here is an animal sound I do. It's and Matilda, you might be particularly talented in this because of the R's in Spanish, but it's a so I roll my tongue on the upper palate of my mouth to imitate the purr, okay? So it would be like this. And sometimes cats, they have that like dreamy eyed look, so you can put your eyes half down too. So that's the house cat. Of course, you can walk around like you would with a dog, which we did in the first session, although they don't walk as fast. So a big cat, okay? These are the tigers and the lions. I do them pretty much all the same. And this time you take that paw, put it out in front of you. The other one goes behind you, like this, okay? And often an animal is defined by how it breathes, okay? So to differentiate it from the small cat, you're going to breathe from the nose, and you're going to breathe deeper and slower. So now you're going to like lean down so your arms are parallel to the floor. I'm going to get close to the camera so you can hear my grunt or sound of the lion. I hope you can hear that. So when you're here, you want to visibly see the breathing. And other than that, they walk and do everything else just like a little cat would. They just do, their motions are just a little bigger, that's all. The other one I want to show you is a pig, and I have my father to thank for this. My father first taught me how to grunt like a pig. Don't ask me why. I have no idea he used to make these funny sounds. Maybe that's where I get all this from. But this is not a very feminine sound, but it's a snorting that you kind of do up through your nose. Can you see my face? It's fun to watch you all. So a pig is like a dog in terms of its stance. It's very stiff. It's lean over and its legs hardly bend. I think of a pig as being very firm on the ground. And they dig with their snout, right? So so you want to dig with your nose for that. So that's the pig. Let me just check the time. Okay, we have about 5 more minutes. So I am going to now show you, we didn't finish the owl, which is a lot of fun. So the owl has a short body. So we're going to put its claws. Remember when we did that swooping with the bird? You want these wide curved fingers. And it's going to be up near your chest, so that defines the short body, okay? And they're kind of close in. I keep my elbows in and my arms in, not out here, okay? And the owl's face moves on a plane, and it usually moves from here to here, back to here, to over here, okay? So let's just practice that one. And it's a staccato. It's not like this. It's staccato from here. Okay. We learned the lizard with the big eyes and or not the lizard, the turtle with the big eyes that look straight ahead. So we want really big eyes. And actually they are, if you focus out about here, to look at. Okay? So let's turn our head with our eyes. And now all you have to do is to add the feet. Oh, they blink too. They're very emphasized blinks. Okay? And that is the owl. Now I have one more, we have 3 minutes, one more thing that flies, and that's the fly itself. Now, when I think of a fly, again, we have that wide-eyed, looking straight ahead kind of look. But when I think of a fly, I think of them cleaning. So we're going to do our hands like this, okay? And then bring them over your head. So if we do it with the eyes, then we're going to do the feet. But you just look at. Now I'm going to show you the legs. Move the camera down here a little bit. So let me do it this way because it's my right leg I'm most comfortable with. Flies go like this when they're cleaning. So you're just going to put it all together with your hands, okay, at the same time. So unfortunately, you won't be able to see all of that, but I will try to give you a sense of what it looks like. You won't be able to see my legs, but again, we're just going like this, and I'm moving my leg up and down. And to do this, it's a good idea to practice standing on one foot. It's always a good thing to do as you get older anyway. So practice changing your clothes, standing on one foot, brush your teeth, standing on one foot. It's always good for balance. It's always important when you do mime and animal characters. So without further ado, we have another video. Just a little background since I have a minute. I was commissioned to tell the stories of La Fontaine, who basically stole them from Aesop, or Aesop, however you pronounce it. And one of them, I think you'll recognize this story. So I was commissioned to do it for a museum in Washington, D.C. And they specifically wanted La Fontaine for a French festival. So I took this story of his, and I did research on these animals in France. And this is what I came up with. I hope you enjoy it.
Imagine, if you will, un petit et picturesque village in Alsace-Lorraine, France. And on the outskirts of that village, underneath a pile of sticks, lived a fox, Monsieur Renard. He had a thick, bright orange coat and a big, fluffy tail that looked like an artist's brush dipped in white paint that matched his white tuxedo shirt. Now, also living in this village, but high on the rooftop that overlooked the Rhine River and the medieval town below, lived a most elegant creature. She had les jambes très longs and a grand nez rouge to match. And in the morning, when she spread her wings wide to welcome the sun, they looked like two giant black and white fans. Now, the villagers called her Mademoiselle Signet, but the tourists who came to admire her beauty called her Mademoiselle Stork. And Monsieur Renard liked to watch her from beneath the sticks. Until one day, he caught her eye and invited her to have dîner avec moi. She had always been curious about this big bushy tail, and it would not hurt to have dinner with a French gentleman. And so she said, mais oui. So on the morning of the dinner, Monsieur Renard combed back his thick, bright orange coat. He fluffed up his big tail until it stood tall in the air. He pushed up his little eyebrows for some extra expression and put some pomade on his whiskers. Surely Mademoiselle Signet had the intention to give him un bis. Now, as every French gentleman knows, the way to a woman's heart is through her stomach. So do you think Monsieur Renard made du poulet? Chicken? Mais non. Do you think Monsieur Renard made la poisson? Fish? Mais non. You see, Monsieur Renard was so busy grooming and preening that he gave no thought for what he would make the Mademoiselle. And by the time he heard her tap, tap, tapping at his door, all he had to offer her was a simple bowl of bouillon, broth. Nonetheless, she has come to see me after all. And Monsieur Renard welcomed Mademoiselle Signet in and showed her to her table. Then, taking a bowl that he used every day, he poured just a small tablespoon into it and got ever so close to Mademoiselle Signet, getting a whiff on the way. And just as Mademoiselle Signet was about to determine how to get her Grand Nez Rouge in such a small bowl, Monsieur Renard took it back. And Mademoiselle Signet got rien du tout. Nothing at all. She thought, I can see he is from sous des béton. Underneath the sticks and off she flew to her grand maison that overlooked the Rhine River and the medieval town below. As for Monsieur Renard, he continued to watch her from beneath the sticks. Well, do you think Mademoiselle Signet forgot how she'd been treated? Mais no. She had all the time in the world to think about her revenge. And then one morning, as she was spreading her wings wide to welcome the sun, she caught the eye of Monsieur Renard and invited him to have dîner avec moi. Ah, notre bonne chance, Monsieur Renard. So he combed back his thick, bright orange coat. He fluffed up his big tail, tall in the air. He pushed up his little eyebrows for some extra expression and put some pomade on his whiskers. Surely Mademoiselle Signet had the intention maintenant to give him un bis. And off Monsieur Renard went to Mademoiselle Signet's home. And as he got closer, he could smell the sweetest aroma. Ah, Mademoiselle Signet has made a special trip to the sea for me. And Mademoiselle Signet welcomed Monsieur Renard in and showed him to his table. Then taking her finest china, which she used for such occasions, she poured a grand ladleful of the bouillabaisse made of the finest fish from the Mediterranean. And she elegantly approached Monsieur Renard, getting oh so close to his little cheeks. And Monsieur Renard could smell, the bouillabaisse, un bis, l'amour. And it was at this moment that Mademoiselle Signet took the bowl back, which turned into a bowl only big enough for her Grand Nez Rouge. And this time it was Monsieur Renard who got 100% of rien du tout. Nothing at all.
Unmute. Wonderful job, wonderful job. Of course, now I've done.
I loved it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So we have Sylvia. We didn't introduce you to the group, but you were here the whole time. Do you?
Yeah.
And Kay Cherie and
Yeah.
let's see the kids and any questions, any comments?
Well, I guess I don't have a big background in storytelling, but I'm interested. I'm a school teacher, and we're all going to be needing to do, lessons, and I think this would be really fun. I've had a little introduction to it, but I would be interested to know what could I do to learn more, or, any ideas. I live in Austin. There was some kind of story celebration they had recently. Have you heard of that?
I'm going to let the other two talk about it, but yes, Celebration is a global event. Go for it. Who wants to fill in? Elaine, can you help us?
Well, you're in Austin, is that what you said?
Yeah, Texas, Austin, Texas.
You might want to check out two organizations. One is the Tejas, T-E-J-A-S, Storytelling Association, I believe it's called. You can get a lot of information from them. Also the National Storytelling Network, which is storynet.org.
Okay.
Those are
storynet.org? Okay, thanks.
That's the national organization of storytellers.
Okay.
There are two places I'd recommend that you start.
Okay, thank you.
May I add something? You can also contact all of us through Storytellers of New Mexico, because nowadays we're doing all through Zoom. So there's kind of no distances.
Isn't that great? Oh my goodness, that's so great.
And I mean, I don't know for other storytellers, but a lot of us have a background in education and in teaching ESL. Both Matilda and I have taught ESL, as does Regina who are all storytellers on the site for this program. And I'm sure I've done lesson plans, and we can add to. There's a lot of books on content in the curriculum that. I could actually pull, I have some on my shelf that if you write to me, I'm happy to provide you, or you can Google them, whatever you want. But we're all capable of doing content-driven lessons that tie in with your core curriculum needs.
How great is that? So would you be located on that StoryNet? I didn't write it down. I'm going to type it. It helps me read.
Storytellers of New Mexico, just that. Storytellers of New Mexico. And as Elaine said, we come from education backgrounds. So
okay, yeah.
Teachers and there's so much that kids can do, and it's so enriching actually. Yeah. And allows them to, nowadays, for example, it's important for them because they can express themselves in an indirect way.
Oh, yeah.
And I was telling earlier when I was telling my chunk is that you get to them straight ahead through a story much better and more efficiently than if you tell them, well, you should not do this, this is advisable. Just tell a story that relates somehow, build a story around their reality.
Oh, yeah.
The message.
The idea of using the movement, getting them to do it, which would be very engaging. And I could see doing that in a Zoom meeting, teaching them the animal things and all that. Really fun.
Research in Haven on neurology and storytelling. The people learn better through a story than they do with given facts. And I'm sure Matilda also knows a lot about this from her background in neurolinguistics.
I even have a multiplication program where can you hear me? They made stories for each of the numbers, and you tell a little story to help you remember the multiplication problem. And I have a program like that.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
There's stories for science, math. I mean, you'd be amazed. History. Yeah, there's stories for almost everything.
Well, I really appreciate your work. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, stopping by. It's been fun. It's been a great deal of fun. In just a few minutes, if there are more questions or there should be more discussion, let's go for it. I was just going to mention, though, that in just a few minutes, about 5 or 6, we'll be doing the Tales of Buxton Flush, and this is again a video, although I hope that the author will be here, will arrive at some point during while we play his video. Well, pardon me, he has a picture of mythical busted flush, and that stays, but his stories and his recorded voice will paint all of the pictures that you will need. They are great fun. So, are there any other comments? I'm glad that that these two were able to talk to you about opportunities, because they know about things that are happening locally as well as across the United States, across the world. So if you went to any of those, Googled any of those organizations, you'll be well served.
Yeah, I'm going to look into it. Thanks. I should do this.
I don't know how to thank you enough, Elaine. All of your performances and your videos, everything has been marvelous. I know we worried a little bit, maybe both of us, about sound the other day. The sound check was a little hard on us, but hard on you. But you've come through with flying colors. Everything has worked out well. getting, like I say, good news from the, I never expected I would have to interact at the same time over so many different platforms. Here I am answering Facebook quotes, and if any of you, or if either of you, Matilda or Elaine, have used Venmo or PayPal me or any sort of tip jar or anything like that, we've had a couple of requests for tip jars. So just let me know, or put it in chat, and then people will be able to read it and will know they will know how to tip you for your performance. We appreciate it. So that's it, as far as I know. It's always kind of anticlimactic, because like when you perform, there's noise, but not quite so much noise here. Oh.
I was going to tell Elaine that I was singing along with the La La La, but yeah, but one of the things that Zoom doesn't allow us to do is with sound, it's kind of fussy and you need to be careful, because if we all unmute ourselves, and I saw that there's this teacher of English who interviewed me for her class in Buenos Aires. And so she wanted the kids to sing, God lift us up where we belong. I don't remember the name of the song now. And it was a mess because all the kids were singing, the song was being played, the teacher was singing. So when you do that, and that I learned from, also Regina had an experience with that with a music teacher. So you play the song and then each person will sing along but mute it. Because otherwise it's a big mess and it's like, it doesn't sound good. It's a pity they haven't developed yet something to improve that.
Latency or lag time in sending sound is a bit of a difficulty. We did have here at the festival 2 sing-alongs for the kids and 2 adult sing-alongs where a couple of musicians are able to play and sing. And we have a program called, access to a program called On Song, and it scrolls the music lyrics in front of you in case you don't remember all the lyrics from the 60s and 70s and 80s. And then I think that somewhere on the website there is actually a way to download the book of all of those songs that they draw on. And we've done sing-alongs through Albuquerque Folk Festival for years, a song circle, but to do it in this electronic way has been a real revelation, a real teaching experience, and still it's fun because, hey, how many of us are really listening to everybody else we're singing next to in a sing-along? Anyway, maybe it all works out. But what it was the springboard to do also jam-alongs. So there have been groups playing, and you can play your own instrument at the same time, and they'll give you chords and beats and charts and all of what you need. There were quite a few hosted jams as well. So that part has just been pretty wonderful. Well, actually, 2:45, and he was not positive yesterday when I saw him what time or even if he would be able to attend. So I'm thinking that I should just move forward, kind of like that Canada Goose story, driving on the levee. I'm just going to go forward and play his Busted Flush stories, Tales of Busted Flush, Oklahoma. Try it again.
Welcome to the 2020 Virtual Folk Fest in beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico. My name is George Williams, and I'm a storyteller. I write and tell stories about the people in the purely mythical place called Busted Flush, Oklahoma, a little town about 100 years southeast of the capital. Today's tales are about 2 of my favorite Busted Flushers. First up is a story about State Senator Horace Tiberius Fogbottom, Busted Flush's legislative mouthpiece. And then there are two tales of my very favorite person to write and tell about, a fellow by the name of Armit Wolfgass. First up, though, is a simple tale about the time Senator Fogbottom was cornered into actually answering a constituent's question. It's called the Dog Law. Oklahoma State Senator Horace Tiberius Fogbottom, Democrat, has been the legislative mouthpiece for Busted Flush, Oklahoma from the time he realized the political power of his three-part name. Most great men, he's fond of saying, have three-part names: John Fitzgerald Kennedy, Lyndon Baines Johnson, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I see no reason why the name of Horace Tiberius Fogbottom cannot join their exalted status. Well, Old Foggy, as he's known, claims the biggest thing that helps him get reelected is his ability to stay out of controversial issues. He can brush off taking a political stand as easy as an old hound dog dislodges a new flea. Horace doesn't deny it either. He says the people of Busted Flush are smart enough to know that a politician who won't take a stand on virtually anything hasn't been bought by any special interest group and is therefore nobody's fool. Well, that may be true for most of the voters, but Herman Ray Calhoun, the Busted Flush sheep herder, broke from the pack one election year and tried to pin Senator Foggy down on a particularly thorny issue. Some old-timers tried to tell Herman that this was bad form, but he didn't care. You see, some of Herman's sheep had been killed by dogs, and he was very interested in an anti-dog bill that had been passed by the House and was on its way to the Senate. The bill would allow sheep herders to shoot dogs they found on their land. Foggy knew most everybody in Oklahoma owned at least one dog and no sheep, and support of shooting dogs would be political suicide. So he followed his usual habit and kept quiet on the subject. Well, that made Herman Ray pretty mad. He started showing up wherever Foggy was speaking and shouting out, "What's your stand on the dog law?" Well, Foggy did his very best to ignore Herman Ray or to answer his question by using it to ask a question of his own and then answering that one, but Horace knew he could not duck that issue forever. People were actually beginning to wonder where he stood on the dog law. Finally, at a rally held 2 days before the election when Herman Ray challenged him again on the dog law, Horace answered him. "Herman, my friend, this is a thorny issue, very thorny, and has excited much comment by legislators on both sides of the aisle. Our constituents have flooded the mail with opinions and suggestions and clogged the phone lines with yays and nays, and State House staffers are right now doing a broad-based feasibility study to determine whether they should prepare to issue an impact statement regarding this and other such related issues. And that brings us to the point of the increased cost of government, and no one is in favor of that. Oh, the people are speaking, my friend, and once they have finished speaking, I will have my say. Next question?" But Herman was not to be dissuaded. He glared down the Sunday school teacher who was poised to ask Senator Fogbottom whether he preferred vanilla frosting or strawberry glaze on his angel food cake, and once again posed his question to Foggy. "Time and time again I have asked you a simple question," he shouted, "and you won't answer it. I ask you again. What's your stand on the dog law? Are you for it or against it?" "My stand, you say?" Foggy said, pretending he had misunderstood. "Oh, is that what you want to know? My stand? Well, that's simple, Herman. That's very simple. I am most definitely in favor of a dog law." Well, hardly anyone could believe their ears. Horace Tiberius Fogbottom had actually committed himself on a political question. It wasn't good enough for Herman Ray Calhoun, though. "What kind of a dog law?" he hollered. "Why, Herman, my good friend," Horace said, smiling, "that should be evident. I am in favor of a good dog law, a strong dog law, and a fair dog law. I want a dog law that will protect the sheep and at the same time never harm the dog." The applause was overwhelming, and Foggy was reelected in his biggest landslide ever. There were only 2 votes against him. Sheep herder Herman Ray Calhoun and his wife, Hadley Joe. Like most of the folks we know, fictional or not, Armit Wolfgas is a mass of contradictions. For example, he's got a fair amount of scar tissue around his eyes, and his nose has a permanent little lean to the left from years of fighting in underground tough man competitions. He never lost a fight, though there were a few times when the judges declared the fight was a tie. Armit's a talented craftsman, too. He doesn't look much like an artist, but he has a special way with wood and makes and sells some really beautiful tables, chairs, and cabinets. And his custom-made laminated longbows, recurves, and arrows are highly sought after by both hunting and target archers around the country. Armit dearly loves his wife, Nadine, too, and their son, Thibault. They're a tight-knit family, and no one of them will tolerate anyone outside the clan saying a word against any one of them. Armit stares down the men. Nadine takes care of the females who transgress in such a fashion. And Thibault, well, he handles the kids. I tell you, Armit, Nadine, and Thibault managed to get into and out of more trouble, situations, and scrapes than anyone I know or ever heard of. And I'll tell you about 2 of them today. The first one is about Armit's fascination with one of America's greatest rural legends. It's called Armit Wolfgas and Bigfoot. Honobia, Oklahoma is a sleepy little town in the Little River Valley, framed by the beautiful Kiamichi Mountains. Not too many people live out there, and not too many people visit there either. It's one of those you really have to be going there to get there kind of place. But on the first weekend of every October, up to 5,000 people gather in Honobia for the annual Oklahoma Bigfoot Festival and Conference. It started back in 2004 when a Honobia family had the idea to plant a large patch of Austrian snow peas right by their house. You see, they knew the area deer love Austrian snow peas, and they figured planting the peas by the house was a good way to get meat for the winter without a whole lot of effort or government intrusion. Now, nobody knew it at the time, but Bigfoot loves Austrian snow peas, too. He started coming around the house at night, eating snow peas, stealing the deer meat from the smokehouse, banging on the walls of the house, and just being a general nuisance. Well, the family contacted the Oklahoma State Police for help, but the troopers just laughed and told the family, "There ain't no such thing as Bigfoot. Stop wasting our time," and just hung up. Well, in true ticked-off Oklahoman fashion, Honobia's reply to this official skepticism was to create the annual Bigfoot Festival and Scientific Conference. It's met every year since 2005. It's a pretty good moneymaker, with all proceeds going to support programs at 5 area high schools. It's a common belief by all true Bigfoot believers that Honobia's remoteness is one of the main reasons Bigfoot likes it there. There are no ATMs, no gas stations, no Wi-Fi, and most cell phones don't have service. The Busted Flush, Oklahoma permanent delegate to the annual Bigfoot Scientific Conference is true Bigfoot believer Armit Wolfgas. Armit doesn't stay in the rental cabins near the conference site. No, he pitches a tent. Not only does that save him money and lets him get close to nature, he thinks camping outside increases his chances of actually seeing Bigfoot. Well, after all the convention scientific papers, speechifying, and arguing is done for each day, there's a Bigfoot Encounter Storytelling Campfire Circle. Any and every Bigfoot sighting witness, young or old, male or female, is encouraged to share their Bigfoot encounter story and then applauded for the tale. Well, Armit was at the campfire last year when the several Budweisers he downed with his dinner of beanie weenies cooked over a campfire, well, it began to churn a little, and he had to answer the urgent call of nature. He moved off into the woods for privacy, did his business, and was headed back to the campfire when he heard a rustling in the woods off to his left. "I'll bet that's Bigfoot," he whispered to himself, and he moved quietly toward the sound. He kept low to the ground, moving closer and closer, making as little noise as possible. When he was as close as he dared to be, Armit carefully moved some tall grass out of his way. and came face to face with the biggest, meanest skunk he'd ever seen. Well, the skunk, being a skunk, turned tail and sprayed Armit with a huge dose of scent, and then disappeared into the brush. Armit choked, gagged, and shouted out a few particularly colorful curses his daddy had taught him, stripped off his skunk-smelling clothes, socks, and boots, shoved them under a nearby bush, and stark naked headed back to his tent. You see, Nadine had packed him some tomato juice in his supplies, which, in addition to its nutritional value and usefulness in making Bloody Marys, it's also a pretty good way of getting rid of skunk smell. He was about 30 feet away from his tent when he heard two people talking softly nearby. "You smell that?" the voice asked. "I sure do," another voice said. "That's Bigfoot, as sure as I'm standing here." Smells kind of like a skunk to me," the other voice said. "I'm telling you, that's Bigfoot." Well, Armit tried to quietly move away, but stepped square on a big goat head sticker. Oh, he howled in pain, and two flashlights snapped on and caught him dancing around on one foot. Now, everyone who knows Armit Wolfgas knows that he is a big man, but most of them don't know that he's a hairy man, too. I mean, really hairy. He hadn't shaved for a few days either, and his size, body hair, shaggy haircut, and thick facial stubble clinched the deal for the two guys with the flashlights. "It's Bigfoot!" Armit panicked. He turned and ran. "He's over here!" the two guys shouted. "Bigfoot's over here!" About a dozen more flashlights snapped on, and people started moving toward the sound. Now, a man running in the dark, divested of his clothes and boots, is pretty near helpless. Every time Armit thought he was in the clear, he'd step on another sticker or tripped over a tree root or stubbed his big toe on a rock. Each time that happened, Armit blistered the air with more cussing, and the mob chasing him would regroup and close in. Exhausted, Armit came to the banks of the little river. He was about to dive in when he slipped and slid down about 30 feet into a huge mud hole. He tried to get out, but just ended up slipping back in and completely covering himself with mud, leaves, and little sticks. He finally grabbed an exposed tree root and pulled himself up to dry land. As he stood up, a dozen flashlights focused on him. "That's not Bigfoot," someone yelled. "That's Swamp Thing! Let's get out of here!" Well, Armit watched the flashlights bob as the men ran away, and, exhausted, he sat down by the mud hole. It took him a couple of minutes to realize he didn't smell a skunk anymore, just mud. He slipped into the little river to clean off the mud, and sure enough, the skunk smell was gone. Armit played in the river for about half an hour, waiting for things to calm down a little, and then quietly made his way back to his tent. He put on some nearly clean clothes and then joined the group at the campfire, listening intently to the amazing story told by the guys who had just survived an unexpected encounter with the one and only, living, breathing Swamp Thing. While this next story is more strictly about Tebow than about his daddy and mommy, it shows a side of Armit Wolfgas that a lot of people have never seen. It took place about this time last year, as the whole population of Busted Flush, Oklahoma was preparing for their annual 4th of July grandiose celebration and town shindig. In Busted Flush, Oklahoma, a little town about 100 years southeast of the capital, the 4th of July is a time of grandiose patriotic celebration and display. American flags of all sizes, spangled with stars ranging from the original 13 to the present 50, fly everywhere. Individual, family, and community cookouts vie with each other as to see who can put on the biggest spread of store-bought, hunted, trapped, or poached, grilled, and barbecued meats. On the Sunday before the 4th, sermons are preached that thank God for his immortal blessings upon this chosen land and its people. And truth be told, a few friendly reminders are sent up about a few prayers that have thus far gone unanswered. Patriotism, preaching, and cookouts make a heady brew. But mix in a population whose recreational preferences tend toward gunpowder, propane, gasoline, and a wealth of other combustible materials, and you have the makings of some truly amazing memories. Take, for example, the 4th of July Skyrocket Bazooka. One day in late June of last year, while Armit and Nadine Wolfgass were doing the quarterly chores, that meant Nadine was throwing out all the junk and accumulated garbage from the past 3 months into the bed of Armit's restored 1948 Ford pickup, and Armit taking it to the dump. Well, Armit and Nadine's son, Thibault, was amusing himself by wrapping black cat firecrackers in fresh mud and then putting daisy BBs in the mud. When the mud was pretty near dry, Thibault lit the fuse and flung the thing up into the air. He was having a blast, so to speak, until Nadine saw what he was doing and put a stop to it. Well, after his mama went inside, Thibault went to watch his daddy wax the truck and started in pouting. He looked down at the ground, sighed deeply, and dug his toes into the ground, all the time looking sadder than a dog who tossed his favorite chew toy into the toilet. Well, Armit, being the good father he was, sighed, put his hand on Thibault's shoulder, and said, "All right, boy, what did you do now?" "Nothing," Thibault said. "Nothing?" Armit asked. "Almost nothing." "Son, almost nothing ain't even close to nothing. Fess up now." "I was just shooting off a few black cat firecrackers," Thibault said, and Mama went all mama on me and made me stop. Well, Armit, remembering his own time as a young boy in trouble with his mother, figured there was probably a bit more to the story. "Were you throwing them at the house?" "No." "Were you throwing them at Dusty?" "No! Dusty's my dog. I'd never do that." "Well, then what were you throwing them at?" "Nothing," Thibault said. "I was just chucking them up in the air. Honest." Uh-oh, Armit thought to himself. The boy had just used the words "nothing," "I was just," and "honest" in the same sentence. This could be bad. To Thibault, he said, "How about you tell me exactly what you was doing?" So Thibault told his daddy how he'd used his mama's sewing scissors to cut up a plastic drinking straw into little bitty pieces, slipped them over the firecracker's fuse, and then packed fresh-made mud around the body of the firecracker, and how he then packed BBs into the mud before it completely dried. "It was so cool, Daddy," Thibault said. "The mud and the BBs gave it some heft, and I flung it like a grenade. And they made mud smoke when they blew up and chopped off a bunch of leaves. It was so cool." Well, secretly, Armit agreed with Thibault, but he knew that his domestic bliss with Nadine, somewhat fragile at the best of times, would pop like a soap bubble if he didn't back her play. "It sure does sound like a lot of fun, boy," Armit said, "but I gotta back your mom's play on this one. What if one of them black cats had a quick fuse and it blowed up in your hand? You could be mangled for life. I admit it'd make a great story, but I think you'd get the short end of that particular stick." But Daddy," Thibault started. "No buts to it, son. No more firecracker grenades. You hear me?" "Yes, sir," Thibault said sadly. "I do." "I know you're disappointed, Thibault, but it's for the best." "I know," Thibault sniffed. He looked and sounded like he was ready to cry, the tears welling up in his eyes like they broke Armit's heart. I'll tell you what, though," Armit said. "If you want, I'll teach you how to build a skyrocket bazooka." "Really?" Thibault said, the firecracker grenades forgotten. "Really?" Armit said, smiling. "It's like a pop bottle rocket shot out of a golf tube, but a whole lot stronger." "Wow," Thibault said. "Yeah," Armit said. Thibault grinned at his daddy. "You gotta be the best daddy in the whole world." "I think that's true," Armit said, smiling. "Let's go down to the Everyday Mercantile and pick us up a few things." And they were off before you could say Bob's your uncle. When they got back home, Armit and Thibault went into the tool shed and started to work. They had a 4-foot piece of 3-inch white PVC pipe, one 3-inch PVC end cap, and a small can of purple PVC glue. Armit showed Thibault how to use the purple glue to attach the end cap. Then he showed him how to duct tape and hot glue a scrap piece of 2-inch PVC to make a hand grip on the 3-inch pipe. Then they spray painted the PVC with brown, green, and a little yellow paint. And when they were done, the whole thing bore a pretty close resemblance to a real camouflage DIY bazooka. "It looks great, Daddy," Thibault said. "You're a genius." Armit blushed a little at that, but he didn't disagree. I mean, it really did look pretty good. "Come on, son," he said. "Let's go get you some ammunition." They drove out to Rufus Kilhoney's big event fireworks and general explosion store, about 10 miles south of town, and Armit told Rufus what he wanted. Rufus dug around a little and came up with half a dozen big skyrockets that fit perfectly into a 3-inch PVC pipe. He and Armit haggled over the price for a little while, but came to terms pretty easy. "Don't you want to know what they're for?" Thibault asked Rufus. "Nope," Rufus said. "Don't ask, don't tell. What I don't know can't hurt me. Have fun, boys." He waved at them when they left, using the hand where 2 fingers had been blown off some years earlier. Thibault thought that and the eye patch made Rufus look really cool. Well, back home, Thibault could hardly wait to test out his new bazooka. "Come on, Daddy, let's try it out. Give me one of them rockets." "Hold on now, boy," Armit said. "You've only got 6 rockets. You shoot 'em off now and you won't have anything for the 4th. I got some little pop bottle rockets I was saving for a fireworks emergency, and I believe this qualifies. Let's use those." You see, Armit knew, and Thibault quickly learned, that a handheld skyrocket bazooka really takes 2 people to operate. One to hold and aim the bazooka, and one to light the ammunition, shove it into the bazooka tube, and yell, "Fire in the hole!" Well, after a couple of dozen pop bottle tests, Thibault felt pretty much in control of things. "Now," Armit said, "who you going to get to load the skyrockets for you?" "Well, ain't you going to do that, Daddy?" "Oh, no," Armit said. "I got to spend the 4th with your mama. So you're on your own, boy." Well, for Thibault, the only person other than his daddy he wanted to help him was golden-haired Paula Perdue, the prettiest tomboy in the 5th grade. They were schoolroom and recess competitors, but they pretty much always teamed up for non-academic mischief and shenanigans. Well, Paula's eyes lit up when Thibault showed her the bazooka, and she said she was in. 50-50, though, Paula told him. 3 rockets for you and 3 rockets for me. Thibault had a hard time saying no to Paula about anything, so he agreed. "And I go first," Paula said. Well, Thibault agreed to that, too. Well, on the 4th, both Thibault and Paula, like most of the other kids in town, spent most of the day with their parents shooting off black cats and ladyfingers. When the sun was going down, though, everyone started gathering at the Busted Flush Community Park for the annual July 4th town picnic and extravagant fireworks display. While the mayor and other town VIP muckety-mucks were speechifying, Thibault and Paula met up at a predetermined spot. "Did you bring the kitchen matches?" Thibault asked Paula. "Of course I did," Paula said. Then she added, "Don't forget, I go first." Well, Thibault, knowing that the wrong answer would affect their relationship for the rest of his life, said, "Sure." They'd already chosen 6 places to launch the rockets, minimizing the chance that people like Thibault's and Paula's mamas could stop them. And Thibault had snuck out last night and hidden the fireworks bazooka and the skyrockets. At point 1, Paula hefted the bazooka up and said she was ready. Thibault struck a match, lit the skyrocket fuse, shoved it into the bazooka, and said, "Fire in the hole!" Seconds later, the skyrocket flew out of the bazooka and exploded in glory over the 4th of July crowd. They ran to point 2. Again, Paula said. Thibault lit and stuffed the second skyrocket into the bazooka. "Fire in the hole!" Things were working perfectly. At point 3, Paula said again, and Thibault followed her orders to the letter. "It's my turn now," Thibault said, and they switched roles. They ran to point 4. Thibault's first rocket worked like a dream, The .5 rocket did too. At .6, though, Paula said, "Uh-oh." "What do you mean, uh-oh?" Tebow asked her. "The stick on this one's broke," Paula said. "Oh, that don't matter none," Tebow said. "That's only to jam the skyrocket into the ground before you light the fuse. We're using a bazooka. Just break it off." Well, Paula broke off the stick, lit the fuse, and shoved the skyrocket into the bazooka. "Fire in the hole," she yelled. Now, neither Paula nor Tebow knew that while, yes, the stick was used to hold the skyrocket into the ground, it also served as a pretty good in-flight stabilizer for the skyrocket's trip into the sky, and breaking it off was definitely not recommended. Tebow's last skyrocket flew from the bazooka and immediately began twisting and turning in the sky. Then it flew straight up. Then it turned and flew straight down and landed in the fireworks pile for the town's celebration, where it promptly blew up. The Busted Flush 4th of July fireworks display, originally scheduled for 48 minutes, was over and done in 9 minutes and 42 seconds. During that time, Tebow and Paula hid the bazooka in the underbrush, raced to their respective families' picnic blankets, and were doing their best to look slack-jawed surprised at what was happening. Armit Wolfgas looked at Tebow and raised his eyebrows in a question. Tebow, thinking he was in unimaginable trouble, nodded his head yes. Armit Wolfgas grinned, slowly raised his hand, index finger extended, and pressed it against his lips in the universal stay quiet gesture, and then turned back to watch the last firework ashes fall from the sky. Well, early on the day of July 5th, Armit and Tebow Wolfgas cut up the skyrocket bazooka into 6 8-inch pieces and buried each one of them at different sites around the park. When they were done, Armit grinned at Tebow and said, "That were really something to see, weren't it, boy?" Tebow smiled back. "It sure were," he said. "You gotta be the best daddy in the world." Armit grinned. "I think you're right about that, son," he said. "I do think you're right." Well, you can hear more about Senator Fogbottom, the Wolfgas clan, and all the other quirky but colorful and very sincere residents of Busted Flush, Oklahoma, by going online and subscribing to the Old Father Williams Storytelling Podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castro, and Castbox, among others. 2 episodes a month on the 1st and the 15th. I hope you had fun at the 2020 virtual Albuquerque Folk Fest, and I hope next year we can see each other face-to-face again. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. Until then, be safe, be careful, and be good to each other.
Oh, George does such a wonderful job. I love it. Absolutely love it. There we go. Got everything down to the bare minimum. Thank you so much, Jim Beal and Ron Liso, I'm not sure, for being here and listening to Busted Flush Tales. Any questions, comments, any feedback?
Yep. Thanks for all the stories today. That was great.
Oh, well, hello there. You are very welcome. You really hung out for the whole
There was a lot to hear.
Festival. Hello, all of you people in the background. How are you doing? Did you like it?
Yes.
Yes, that's Shiloh. Coralie, did you listen too?
She's not here at this exact moment.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. We certainly had
Thank you.
Variety.
Yes, there was a lot of it. All right, thank you. We're gonna leave now. Oh, did you want to say something, Shiloh?
No,
Okay.
just thank you. Thank you.
What is the folk festival even for?
What is it for? Oh, what a lead-in. That is the best question ever.
That's a nice question. The Folk Fest depicts, or if that's a too hard word, too difficult for you, that what the Folk Fest does is shares everything that's going on in New Mexico, the folklore that is a tradition, the customs, the music that is played and enjoyed in New Mexico, the stories that we tell, and in this case, the stories come from all over the world also, because we are also from different parts of the world, even within different states in the United States. So I don't know, Diane, if I answered that.
Oh, you did a good job. You did a great job. Our mission is to share, and the fact that we cherish all traditional folk activities, whether they're oral or musical or physical dancing or anything. If somebody wants to join us and do a jam to teach other people, then we think that's great. Especially we like intergenerational. And what that means is that especially we like when the elders teach the youngers, teach the kids, teach the babies, teach everybody, because we want them to continue. Does that make sense, Shiloh?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Well, thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well.
Bye, sweetie. Oh my God.